What's up, brother? Welcome to the show, man.
Yo, how's it going? Excellent music, by the way. Greatly enjoyed it.
Thanks, brother. Dude, I've been making these new edits and stuff for my intros. I want to swap them up just a little bit. I have like this software that will slightly remix it every time. So it's like it's a beautiful thing. I like doing those like little vaporwave edits, like just some like background scrolling with some Renaissance paintings or something.
No, that's cool. It's hard. It goes so hard.
It's thanks, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show, dude. Why don't you introduce yourself to those that kind of don't know what you do? You're kind of a legend in the meme scene.
Yeah, so my name is Mario, Christian Mario. You can find me on Twitter at SuperXTIAN Mario. And I make really niche comedy videos in the Christian sphere. Generally, my main guy I've been making fun of is Michael Lofton, but I picked on it a little bit of everybody at different times. And I make like kind of niche comedy content, and then I hop on people's live streams. And I'm personally starting to stream more because I'm finding it fun. But yeah, I talk about Eastern Orthodoxy. I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian. And, my favorite topics are philosophy and Christianity. And politics. So I love to talk about any of those things. And I'm always told that I look like Seth Rogen and that I sound like Nick. So before any of you comment thinking you're original, yes, I know I look like Seth Rogen. And yes, I know I sound like Nick. So hold your comments. So,
nice. Did they say they made you makes you crash out if somebody calls you Seth Rogen?
Oh yeah, that's the problem. Is I got such bad anger issues. I might go full Trent. I might go full Trent and start cussing and screaming and yelling. And we just can't have that. So
we're gonna have a round two here. Do a little reenactment of the Trent crash out. Dude, honestly, that was probably the wildest crash out I've ever seen. I thought he went pretty nuts on Jay's debate, but this honestly surprised me. How bad he crashed out in this one.
Well, I love him. I love him so much. First, I want to just say that I'm a fan of Trent's. He's great. Keep him. Let's keep debating him. Let's just bring him out over and over again to debate whether or not Islam is salvific or whatever. Because, he goes farther than just saying that they have the same God. He'll say that they have the gospel. He recently made a statement that Hindus, I know you've seen this, that Hindus believe in the same God. Crazy work.
Dude, he said that in the debate too. He said Hindus, Zoroastrians, Muslims. He said in some sense atheists. It's just like everything was free game. At one point, I brought up there's a classic argument I like to make. I made it on Sam Shimon. He fell for it. I did it with a Catholic Christian on the debate with him.
I love this one.
But it's the pink elephant with the unicorn horn. Dude, I don't know why they keep falling for it. It's so stupid. It's not a good debate. It's not a good debate tactic at all, but it works for some reason.
And also, it's just like it's weak biblically, but it's also not the strongest metaphysical argument. I know that they make we have this concept of God, this sort of like unmoved mover, the origin of all things, created creation, ex nihilo, and all this stuff. And Islam allegedly shares that with us, but they don't actually. I mean, their metaphysics are actually different. They're compatibilists, if I recall correctly. They believe that Allah is destroying and rebuilding the world all the time. There's hadiths about this. So it's like, no, I mean, even if we were to grant this sort of Platonic form of God that floats out there that we all can just sort of vaguely reference, they have a totally different metaphysic for their God in every sense. So it's just such weak argumentation. And then also when you say, okay, well, they're referring to the God of Abraham, we're referring to the God of Abraham. It's like, okay, well, word concept fallacy 1, but 2, something being nearly the same referent isn't all that Vatican II says. Vatican II says that together with the Christians, they adore the one true God. So not only are they saying that they have the same referent, which, I don't really care if you believe that, whatever. But if you say that they worship the same God, it's crazy. And especially, and I wanted to make this point really quick, was just that if you talk to pop Catholic apologists, a lot of the times when they engage Protestants, they'll say, you guys don't worship God, you guys merely praise God. Have you heard them say this?
Yeah, something like that.
Without a Eucharistic sacrifice, you're not worshiping God, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say this to you guys and then simultaneously say that Muslims worship God.
Yeah.
And then I know that they could just get in there and they start making distinctions. Well, we're talking about this form of worship, not that form of worship. Oh, well, we just mean this type of worship. Protestants worship God in a sense, but they don't in the fullest sense. And it's like, okay, save your sophistry. This isn't optics and nightmare. Quit coming out here and, making these statements that are binding that to the average Christian are just confusing and contradictory at worst and convoluted at best. So
yeah, I don't know if you noticed, Trent Horn actually made that same line of reasoning back a couple of months ago with the Protestant worship problem, and then recently when he did his Vatican II defense video, he basically boiled it down to, well, you actually don't have to accept the Vatican II. You can reject it privately. He said just keep it to yourself, reject it privately, and then it's not grave matter, which is absolutely absurd. If you were to read Denzinger, you cannot reject even the ordinary magisterium. You have to assent to it.
I didn't know he said that, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah. He said as long as you keep it a secret or private or whatever.
Got to keep it on a hush hush. And I guess
just don't embarrass us, basically. But here, I want to pull this up because I thought one thing to make very clear is this dude that we were debating last night is not your typical Roman Catholic. He has some wacky theology that I want to be fair to the Roman Catholics. Most Roman Catholics do not hold to this guy's crazy theology. So this guy is a dual covenant guy. He believes that all Jews are saved without accepting Christ. By the way, thanks for the $5 super chat. Frugay says, I thought Trent was going to go full stone cold Steve Austin, was looking for a couple of beer cans getting smashed. Yeah, he was a little hyper there. All right, so let me play this just so you can see what he said in a former debate
of Jews. I think that Christians and Jews worship the same God, and I don't think anything soteriological follows from that either. You could be like a replacement theorist, a reformed replacement theorist, and said Jews are all going to hell by default. You could be kind of a eternal covenant guy like me that says all Jews are going to heaven by default, or you could be a person that says
so all Jews are going to heaven by default. They don't need to accept Jesus Christ. It's basically what he was arguing with AP here in his debate, the one that he did just before our debate, which is nuts, but that's the position he holds.
Well, oh my gosh, you almost don't even need to say anything. But I think what's ironic about hyper-ecumenist Christian theology, but also just Zionist Christian theology, is it actually ends up being probably the most anti-Semitic belief you could have. Because if you're a Christian, you want Jews to be saved. I want Jews to be saved. I want them to accept the gospel. I want them to accept Jesus Christ as Messiah. And I want them to worship the Trinity and adore the Trinity. So if you take this position that they're automatically good to go, that is hateful. That is evil. That is wicked. You are now denying them the chance to experience the grace of God in personal relationship with Jesus. You're basically saying, oh, no, you don't need that. And that is a false gospel.
Yeah. And it gets a lot worse when you actually look at what some of the other Roman Catholic, like popular YouTubers say about Vatican II in terms of the salvation of non-Christians. Did you ever see those Michael Lofton clips in which he was saying that Vatican II actually refers to the salvation of non-Christians, that they can be saved in and of their false religions, and their religious rituals, he said, were like quasi-pagan sacraments. Absolutely absurd.
Well, you see this in the part of Vatican II, it talks about Muslims when it says together with the Christians, they adore the one true God. It's important to remember what's said right before that, which is including the plan of salvation foremost is the Muslims. I might be paraphrasing, but it includes them in the plan of salvation. And, when it comes to speculative theology about who's saved and who's not, one thing that you absolutely cannot say is that false beliefs can be salvific. That's crazy. Whether or not you want to make some sort of statement about, a Hindu girl's running across the street and she gets hit by a bus and she's 6 years old. Is she going to hell? You know what I mean? Like certain statements like that, I can understand why you would want to nuance things and talk about, God judges people according to what they know and things like that. But when you start saying things like false beliefs are salvific, I don't even know how you're a Christian at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nuts. But this is where Vatican II gets you, which is why I was saying in the debate by bringing up Romans 1, this is the logical conclusion of having this type of hyper ecumenism, like nonsense theology, in which you're like, oh, everybody's kind of worshiping the same God. Well, then you have no problem partnering with atheists to defend matters of faith, which is absurd. I would never partner with someone who literally has their entire career blaspheming the Trinity. I don't know if you know this about Danny, but that's his bread and butter, is doing philosophy debates using the laws of identity to try to disprove the Trinity. But you're partnering and holding hands with this guy to do ministry. It's absurd. Tish says, $5 super chat. With each one of his debates, I'm convinced these arguments are from a theology of universalism. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes sense that he would have this guy on his team if that is the case, because in his previous debate, he said in some sense, atheists worship the same God too, which makes no sense. Atheists don't worship God at all, except for themselves, I guess. They would be their own God.
I'm convinced it's actually, I'd go a step further. I think this is actually worse than universalism, because universalism, I don't hold to that belief. I want to make that very clear. I don't want anyone thinking I'm defending it. I just want to say where this is a different belief. I think it's even
clip this right now.
Yeah,
clip this right now. Christian Mario's universalist.
Don't clip this. But it seems like his belief is full-on religious indifferentism, which universalists aren't even necessarily indifferentists. They might take this belief that everyone will be saved in the end and there's a sort of purgation or whatever, but they don't believe that these false beliefs are salvific, but rather that since it's God's will that all mankind be saved, that God will unite them to him in some mystical way. That doesn't necessitate the idea of saying that pagans have some sort of quasi-sacrament. So I think it's actually maybe even a step further. Universalism is heresy, so I'm not co-signing that, but it definitely seems like it might even go a step further. And also it seems like, how is it not blasphemy to say that the God of the Bible, the God of Christianity, is reducible to just these few attributes that you can vaguely now assign to an elephant? And they always accept that whenever you throw that at them. They just go, yeah, and. But it's like, no, dude, you're making a very crazy statement about the God of the universe.
Yeah. And notice how they refuse to define the bare minimum for having the same God when I was asking them, because it's all arbitrary. They're making it up as they go because they don't know what they're doing. Vatican II was a nonsense ecumenical council. They shot the arrow, they painted the target around it. And that's what it seems like in each of these debates. There's no documents clearing up exactly what this means. And the documents that do clarify Vatican II actually make it worse, as we're about to see here with some of these Michael Lofton statements. Let me play 3 quick little clips that Wagner shared from what Lofton was saying. And then what I actually want to do, I want to dive into your parody video, because I think that's funny, dude. The first one you did, the Michael Lofton versus Jay Dyer debate. Yeah. Nuance, hyper qualified. That thing's a classic, man.
Real.
All right, let's check this out.
Document teaches that these false religions, they have some truth in them, and God can save them through that truth. Almost in the way that God saves Catholics through the sacraments, God uses the truth in these false religions as a means to save people.
So he uses the truth in false religions to save people, like a sacrament. Hold on. It's a quasi-pagan sacrament.
So it's a quasi-sacrament. It's a quasi-pagan sacrament, is what Ratzinger is basically saying. But it's not the full-blown Catholic sacrament that works ex opere operatum. That's the privileged path of Jesus in the church, it wants to say.
They keep using this language, and it drives me nuts. This is the privileged path. This is the privileged path. I don't know if you noticed Bishop Barron talking to Ben Shapiro. Did you see that post they made on that? He said something like, this is actually just the privileged path to heaven. Jesus is the privileged path. But you got all these other paths, like you're a religious Jew, Ben Shapiro. Just be the best religious Jew you can be, man. Follow the law, do that. When the scripture actually says, if you're a Judaizer, that's actually anathema. That's complete separation from God. I mean, it's not, just be the best, trust in the law as much as you can. No, actually, Paul says anathema. You're accursed. Insane.
Crazy work. I didn't see your tweet about that, but I remember when that interview came out. I remember watching it and then going, I wonder what the bishop's going to say to the Jew asking, how is he saved? Surely he's going to say something slightly Christian, but instead we get this weird, just
question
be the best
a lot, which is,
it's consistent actually, because their recent saints like Mother Teresa, she would read the Quran to dying Muslim children. She would get, and I'm putting quotes, holy water, quote unquote, for Hindus from their sacred lake or whatever, which by the way is filled with fecal matter and bacteria. A lot of people die from it. And she would go and bring that water back so they could drink their quasi-pagan sacrament. Also, I'm sorry, pagan sacrament, is that not a contradiction in terms? Aren't sacraments holy things? Is this not just like on its face ridiculous? It's like you're saying unholy, holy thing. What are you talking about?
Well, dude, that's the entire position. If you notice in the debate, which we'll play in just a little bit, guys, the point that he was making, I said, dude, you can't worship like two gods at the same time. You can't worship the true God and a demon at the same time. It's one or the other. You can't have two masters, right? Scripture is very clear. He's like, no, actually you can. You can worship God and a demon at the same time in some sense. I don't know if you noticed in his debate with, I don't remember if it was AP or J, he made the statement that was like, he's like, oh, actually, what these Muslims are doing, in some sense, they're worshiping a demon because it's a fake religion, but also they're worshiping the one true God at the same time. So it's a demon and the one true God. It literally makes no sense. This is why when I brought up, as you'll see in a little bit, when I bring this up, when I brought up the golden calf example, he refused to answer it. He flat out said, I will not answer that. I'm too good to answer that question because it's a trap. That's what he said. It's a trap. I'm like, yeah, you know, it defeats your position.
Yeah, too good to answer the question.
Yeah, I'm too good to lose this debate by answering your very simple question. But let's check out what Bishop Barron said about it, and then we'll watch your parody video.
Really much, but I get this question a lot, which is, you know, as a Jew, how does it feel that there are other religions that don't think you're getting into heaven? So let me ask you, what's the Catholic view on who gets into heaven and who doesn't? I feel like I lead a pretty good life, a very religiously based life in which I try to keep not just the 10 commandments, but a solid 603 other commandments as well. And I spend an awful lot of my time promulgating what I would consider to be Judeo-Christian virtues, particularly in Western societies. So what's the Catholic view of me? Am I basically screwed here?
No. The Catholic view, go back to the Second Vatican Council, says it very clearly. I mean, Christ is the privileged route to salvation. I mean, God so loved the world, he gave his only son that we might find eternal life. So that's the privileged route. However, Vatican II clearly teaches that someone outside the explicit Christian faith can be saved. Now, they're saved through the grace of Christ, indirectly received. So, I mean, the grace is coming from Christ, but it might be received according to your conscience. So if you're following your conscience sincerely, or in your case, you're following the commandments of the law sincerely, yeah, you can be saved.
Yeah, you just got to follow your conscience, dude. Just whatever you feel like is good, just do it, you know? Just follow your heart.
Disney Channel theology, dude. Just, you know, follow your heart, you know, make a wish upon a star, you know? I don't have the words for that. It's embarrassing this guy even calls himself a bishop. He should just give up the title. You know, people are very lenient about this sort of thing, but I mean, if you really take a minute to digest what he's saying, he's telling a Jew who's a Christ denier by necessity, their whole religion is just built around rejecting the Messiah. You're telling him keep on with that. And so you're complicit in his denial of Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be afraid for my soul if I were to, you know, not give a Jew that does not believe in Jesus Christ, that willfully rejects Jesus Christ. If I didn't give him the gospel and I just gave him this kind of like, you're actually good just the way you are, just follow the law. I mean, I'm held accountable for that when I go before the judgment seat of God. So I would, I mean, dude, that would be rough. Other Paul, thanks for this $2 super chat. Play the John MacArthur clip with Ben in contrast.
Have you seen that one?
No, what is that?
Well, so I can't remember. I can't quote it exactly, but I remember he asked MacArthur whether or not he was saved. The same question, pretty much. And MacArthur's like, "Nah, you're cooked. You got to be a Christian," basically. So he gave him the whole quote.
Nice.
The thing he did
all right.
here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's rough, man. It's rough when John MacArthur is the guy that's doing the right thing here, and the bishop of the Roman Catholic Church is just giving them the runaround. But I really do think ultimately at the end of the day, that is the fruit and the exact idea. Notice he cited Vatican II. Like that was his justification for holding this view. So the entire issue comes back to binding the entire church to heresy, which ultimately is a defeater for their entire worldview. This and this alone should convince anyone watching this video not to be Roman Catholic. The Eastern Orthodox do not have this problem. Don't get gaslit with the videos of patriarchs saying these types of things, and then they're saying, oh, look, it's the same exact thing. They're not bound to this type of teaching. That's that person's private opinion. There's a difference between an individual saying something and an ecumenical council.
But also, most of the patriarchs they've quoted, they're agreeing with the concept of Muslims potentially having the same referent. But you'll notice that the idea that they worship the same God is absent. And the reason why this is important is because whether or not you believe in God or not, and you're aiming to worship God, doesn't mean you can worship him however you want. You see this in scripture. You see this in Corinthians. You see this with, when St. Paul talks about how the Eucharist can be received unto death, and how you can receive the Eucharist in a way that is soul damning, in a way that jeopardizes your spot with God. And so that worship, if you worship God in a way that's not correct, and this can even happen as a Christian, this can even happen in Orthodoxy. If you worship God in a way that he does not want to be worshiped, you've now placed yourself in grave peril. And so, I'm sure that there's cases where people do illicit things, where there's liturgical abuses or things like that. Well, those things are actually a really big deal.
Yeah. So let's jump into something a little lighter. I want to play your parody video here. Why don't you tell us kind of what led to you making this this video in the first place? Because this is legendary. I remember talking about this back in the Discord days all the time. This is like a meme in like almost every server I've been on. So tell me a little bit about it.
Well, it started when I like randomly one day did like a voice impersonation of Lofton, where I was talking about, actually I think Vatican II, where I was making him like nuance and qualify the idea that I can't remember what it was. It was something ecumenical, where I was just making fun of the guy, and all the trad cats loved it. They all loved it, and they all kept retweeting it. And I'm friends with a lot of the guys in the trad cath world. I love a lot of those dudes. And they kept boosting it and telling me to make more. And then I was like, okay, I'll make more. But then I was like, well, I'm Orthodox. I want to make some jokes about Dyer. And so then I started making fun of both Lofton and Dyer. And Lofton was a good sport. Or I mean, not Lofton. Dyer was a good sport, and Lofton was a bad sport, So yeah. Lofton just pretended he didn't see it. There's no way he didn't see it. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. I memed this guy out of existence pretty much. But Dyer thought it was funny, and then he and I ended up becoming friends out of it. So just goes to show, if you have a sense of humor, you can take these sort of things on the chin and make something making fun of you actually work in your benefit. So I was a fan of Dyer even then, so I was going a little softer on him than I was Lofton. But
dude, I gotta say, your later videos, your Dyer impression fell off, man. The initial one was the best.
I know. I've been told this in my later videos when I try to do Dyer. I just don't have that magic anymore. I can't do the Dyer voice right. The Lofton, it's ingrained in me. I can always do a good Lofton.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, thanks for the super chat, Jacob. If you have a question, send it in. I noticed you sent it in blank. Send it in. I'll pull it up on the screen. But let's go ahead and watch this video because it's pretty funny, dude.
Gamers, it's Mario here, and I'm lucky to have a hidden debate between J. Dyer and Michael Lofton that got buried. But I have it, and I have a video of it, and I'm going to show it for you guys. It's an incredible debate, completely riveting. You guys will enjoy. You're watching Reason and Theology Live, and I'm your host, Michael Charitable, Rage of Dissenters Lofton, and I will be debating the schismatic, heretic, and guy who needs to repent, J. Dyer. You're turning into Jay's analysis. I'll be debating Michael Lofton, and I just wanted to say that Michael Lofton does not understand a transcendental argument and is a proponent of natural theology, which is cringe and totally not based. And also, he doesn't have the nous and is in prelist. Now, that is just uncharitable and imprudential and not hyperqualified of you. You made no distinctions and have no nuance. That is completely schismatic and utterly damaging for the soul. You are guilty of evil suspicion, and you are not looking into my heart. Can you read my heart? You schismatic Orthodox, them be always hating on me, and I hate that. Get real. You're watching J. Dyer with Jay's analysis, and actually, I wanted to point out that you have papal clown masses and that you have schismatic mass. You know what I mean? Like, your mass is totally
now, what you're saying is just completely
real.
imprudential and is completely schismatic and not hyperqualified. Now, let me explain. Now, if there was a clown mass, there was a prudential reason for why Pope Francis would have done it. He would have done it to stop the rad trad schismatics from schisming from the magisterium. And that is why. That's just cope, showing that you don't have the nous and that you're in prelist and that you don't understand the transcendental argument tag, as we call it, when we own the atheist epic style Fortnite Among Us Chungus 3000. And you are a modernist hippie who doesn't understand, because you're a goober, basic philosophy and basic metaphysics and basic transcendental metaphysics.
No, that is just uncharitable.
That is just uncharitable.
That is just not nuanced and not hyperqualified. And I call you to repent for what you said to Trent.
Oh, I need to repent.
Because that was uncharitable, and that was not hyperqualified, and it was not nuanced, and it didn't have the magisterium, and it was the worst.
No news, no news, bro. You don't got the news. Clown mask. You got a clown mask, dude.
No, that is not hyperqualified. That is schismatic in nature.
Yeah, debate me in voice chat. Debate me in voice chat, okay?
And
you're a hater.
Francis.
You're a hater, dude.
Jay, I've been charitable to you. I've given you all this time to talk. And now I'm going to make my closing arguments. You are schismatic in nature, and you are not charitable, and you need to repent.
I'd just like to close by saying that Michael, no matter how many times we explain it, does not understand the transcendental argument. And he doesn't have a basic understanding of philosophy, metaphysics, or the ecumenical councils, or how we're conciliar and all that. So, yeah.
Dude, that's hilarious, man.
I forgot how good that was. I forgot how
Dude,
good that
that's a classic, man. Dude, the funny thing is, so you know when I went on Ruslan, I don't know if you ever saw that video, the interview on Ruslan. So when I was on there, I actually we talked about the transcendental argument. I promise you, I stole that directly from Jay watching his atheist debate. So 100%. That's where I heard it first. And I was like, dude, this works so good. I got to research the tag argument. So I did like hyper focused, intense research on it for a couple of months. I was like, all right, I'm using this every single time I debate an atheist now. It works, dude. It's a good argument, man. $2 super chat. Paisios, will you debate Luigi soon? He just unblocked me, so no. I'm noticing when I debate people, they're no longer my friends afterwards. I don't want to. I like Luigi. I think he's funny, so I'd rather he be my buddy. I don't know. That's like the guys that want me to debate Jim Bob. I'm like, dude, no, I like Jim Bob, and I don't know. I can be kind of mean in debates. I don't want to be. I don't want to be mean to people that I like.
No, I love Jim Bob. I think that Jim Bob, actually, he's debated a lot of people that he's friends with. Danny's an example, actually. He and Danny are on good terms. And, Jim Bob and Danny couldn't be further apart in what they believe. But they've always been pretty friendly. And then, he's friendly with a lot of the guys. So I think that would be an exception to that general rule. But as far as Luigi, Ben, and his – I just dropped my cap on the ground. His current – things he wants to debate are pretty much exclusively LDS right now. He's going through a massive Mormon kick, and he pretty much doesn't want to talk to you if you're not a Mormon. And then he likes arguing, papists. He can't help himself with that. But I think he mainly just likes the Mormons right now. They're his bread and butter. So that's who he wants to talk to.
All right. So what you're saying is me and Luigi tag team the next Vatican II debate. we'll get two equally rough Roman Catholics. Actually, I'll get Michael Lofton and I don't know, like Trent Horn or something. Me and Luigi tag team.
These people are some of these Catholics are so disingenuous. I reposted something from you, and then I get a comment. It's like, you're teaming up with Protestantism. I'm like, dude, are you like an idiot? It's like me and this guy, we have the same opinion on this.
Right.
I'm not saying that we have the exact same views on everything. People on the internet are just so ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Jacob. Thanks for keeping this charitable, prudential, hyper-qualified, as Michael Lofton requires. Blessings to both of you from this LCMS Christian. Hey, thank you. God bless. God bless. Put another super chat come in too. Let me read that real quick. Logan Shelton, the Bishop Barron statement you guys mocked is similar to Paul's. No, it is not, dude. Get out of here. I saw you yapping on, I forget where you were at, but you were doing the same exact type of sophistry in some other video. You're just coping because this debate was a death blow for the Vatican II position, as was the J debate. It was already done after that, but then it was ground into the dirt with AP and then again with me. I mean, ultimately, this position is untenable. Nobody can defend this. I don't know. What do you want to say about that, Mario?
Well, I think that's not even remotely true. I mean, in Acts 4:12, which is attributed to Peter, not Paul, it says there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which you must be saved. unless you think Peter and Paul are inconsistent, they're exclusivists. They don't believe that there's this like Christian minimalism that, as long as you are a nice person and you vaguely like God, you're good to go. You don't have to believe in the Trinity or something. So I don't know. And this is the thing too, is they like to say that because our position is a lot easier to defend and it's simple. Pretty much anybody except hardcore V2 guys. I mean, trad caths are going to agree with us on this too. But unless you're basically like a V2 simp, this is, they say that we're lacking nuance. We're not complicated enough. Our theology is too rigid. It's like, no, actually, it's easy to defend because it's true.
Right.
Sometimes,
yeah, I think that's why this debate is so simple to go into. And when I was offered this debate, I accepted it immediately. I didn't even think for half a second because JP was like, JP, he texted me, I don't know, maybe 3 days before the debate was supposed to happen. He was like, hey, let's do this. I don't know. It might've been 4 days or something. Hey, let's do this. Yeah. You want to do this on Tuesday? Absolutely. Let's go. Like, I don't care who's it with. All right, let's go. Absolutely. No second thought. Cause this is such a simple thing to defend. This is the concept, Logan. This is something that they got wrong in the entire debate. This is the distinction. If you willfully reject Jesus Christ, if you willfully reject the Trinity, you do not worship the same God as me. Okay. That's it. Period. Now, you can maybe make an argument for somebody who's completely ignorant, right? Like, let's say somebody who never heard about Jesus. They're off on an island. They're like, God, are you out there? Can you hear my prayer? Like, yeah, you can make an argument for that person. You can't make an argument for a Muslim who is in a religion that is literally predicated on the denial of the Trinity. This is a ridiculous position, dude.
I mean, Christ says it himself. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He didn't say you could just have the Father, which is what I guess Christian ecumenists are claiming, that Muslims just have the Father. Well, if you ask a Muslim, is Allah a father? They're going to tell you no. They're going to tell you to kick rocks. So it's just.
Right. Gary, thanks for the $5 super chat. What do you think about Dr. Tom Wadsworth on his worship? I have no idea who that is. Do you know? I don't have an opinion. Thanks, Gary. Bible first, $2. Will people be allowed to come up and talk? Nah, this isn't going to be an open stream this time. We're just going to talk about the debate. We're just kind of yapping before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video. But ultimately, so let me just do this. I'm going to pull up a sanitized version because I think Luigi shared one that was done by Idol Killer.
Yeah, Idol Killer censored it out, which is nice.
Yeah, let's see. All right. Yeah, he censored it out, and I don't want to play the one with all the curse words. So yeah, I'll play the bleeped out one because Trent was dropping F-bombs. He was blaspheming. He was all sorts of curse words. You know what I mean? He called. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to go into detail with every word he used, but he was crashing out. This was the worst crash out I've ever seen in any debate ever. And I don't know if you noticed, I didn't insult or anything like that. I literally just said, this is the logical conclusion of your theology, Romans 1:21 through 27, which I don't know, dude. If the point of my discussion was, this is where ecumenism gets you. You're willing to debate this with an atheist homosexual on your team. This shows where your spiritual state is. Romans 1:21 through 27. Literally, God says he will turn you over to your lusts, right? And we'll talk more about that in just a second, but I want to play the crash out here. This was nuts, dude. Hold on. So what happens when you worship these demons? Well, guess what? God gives you over to sexual impurity. And I think we can actually see the fruits of this type of theology on display here today, since you have teamed up with a bisexual atheist to defend your theology.
That's a piece of shit. That's a piece of shit move, you piece of shit. You.
I'm just saying.
So disgusting. I cannot believe that I'm sitting here and I'm seeing somebody who claims to be a Christian treat another human being with such absolute disrespect. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. Danny,
well, you're coming here to defend theology with an atheist
unchristian
that has his entire and now he's crashing out. So notice the beginning is literally me just saying this is the logical conclusion of your theology. The comment is actually pointed towards Trent, not Danny. So for those of you that were watching the debate, that entire conversation, that entire premise, that entire argument, the Romans 1:21 through 27, was pointed directly at Trent, him, for agreeing to a debate with a bisexual atheist. Notice his literal name. He changed his name mid debate to bisexual atheist mid debate. So he was kind of like mocking us in the middle of that. But this comment wasn't even directed towards Danny. This was directed towards Trent. Dude, you're a Roman Catholic PhD scholar, and you're teaming up with a bisexual atheist to defend your ecumenist theology. This is like the most stereotypical ecumenist thing you could possibly do. This is like having a clown mass live right now.
Well, basically what you were saying, and like your point, I mean, people go, I mean, they said it in the video. I remember Danny, he goes, "Will you ad hom to me?" And I can understand why he would feel that way, but let's put this into context here. What you're saying, and the reason why it's not an ad hom, the reason why it's relevant, is because you're basically saying that his worldview leads to spiritual delusion. It leads to being deluded. It leads to being completely spiritually brain dead. And then, you know, what's a deluded thing for a Christian to do? Well, a deluded thing for a Christian to do is to team up with a avowed bisexual atheist. That's what he's got his title as somebody who's giving good theology. And your buddy for your 2-on-1 debate where you're debating two Christians, you're going to have an atheist on your team. And yeah, that's a good idea. And, you know, it's not the genetic fallacy either. It's not that we're saying Danny's wrong because he's an atheist. Right. If an atheist says a true thing, I have no problem saying that it's a true thing. The issue is that is the fact that his theology, his worldview basically necessitates this outcome. And that's what you're saying, you know, so that's how it's not an ad hom.
And notice ever since Roman Catholicism has accepted these Vatican II innovations, in the most ecumenist parishes, you have pride masses, you have these clown masses, you have all of these, like the videos that Novus Ordo watch clips and makes big compilations out of. I mean, this is not a intellectual issue. This is a spiritual issue. When you defend idolatry, literally idolatry, you're defending that Muslims have the same God as you. I would say that is the definition of idolatry, which is why Trent refused to answer when they're worshiping the golden calf question. Are they worshiping the one true God or are they worshiping a demon? No, they can actually do both at the same time. Dude, you're literally committing idolatry in your line of reasoning, and that is a spiritual infection, which God says, and I'm going to pull up these verses here, because this is not just like I was just being a jerk or whatever. You guys are so goofy that are making this argument. But you know, whatever. I kind of knew that people would bring that up, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like if somebody's going to jump into the debate and have literally the tag bisexual atheist, and you're defending this with a Roman Catholic, do you just expect me not to say anything about it? I mean, what do you expect me to do? Just be completely silent? Oh, I can't talk about this, guys. This would be rude if I bring it up. Don't address the elephant in the room. This is why so many of your churches, your parishes have fallen to liberalism, because you're too worried to speak out against this type of stuff. Norm, oh man, $5. The bare minimum standard should be if a person accepts the Apostolic and Nicene Creed. If they don't believe in God. I would say that's probably a better standard than was presented in this debate, because in this debate, the standard was kind of arbitrary. But let's take a look. So this is Romans. And again, this comment was not directed towards Danny. This comment was directed towards Trent. This is the spiritual outcome of his radical ecumenist position. For his invincible or his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. They're without excuse. They have no excuse. This does not defend natural theology. This is the reason I use this verse, this chapter rather, is because this is the go-to chapter to prove this kind of made-up version of natural theology that the modern Roman Catholics use, right? Because they're kind of taking a little bit of a truth and mixing it with a lie. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. They became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man, birds, animals, and creeping things. Therefore, God gave them up in the lusts of their heart to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. Their women exchanged natural relations for those who are contrary to nature. You see this in a lot of the modern Novus Ordo Roman Catholic churches, where they have the pride masses and things like that, especially over in the more liberal states. This is the logical conclusion. You also see this in more liberal Protestant churches that have accepted this kind of syncretistic nonsense. And, you know, I'm sure you could see maybe with some of the more liberal patriarchs, some similar tendencies, like with Archbishop Elpidophoros. I'm sure you've heard some things, but I don't want to go too deep into that. But anyway, so the point of this being, this is not an ad hominem. This is a theological point to show you this issue is not intellectual. This is a spiritual issue. It was just at full display during that debate. What do you think about that, Mario? I
think it's pretty cut and dry. I think the main reason that it's relevant is I wonder if Trent thought, I mean, I'm not referring to the scripture here, but I was thinking about why the atheist, why Danny being relevant, why his sexuality is relevant. Well, first off, you made it relevant, Danny. You mentioned it. You put it underneath your name to make it provocative. So if you go, why are you mentioning who I'm attracted to? That's so mean, like you are in the chat right now. That's kind of silly because you made that your header. So own it, dude. If you're bi and proud, well then be bi and proud, buddy. Don't cry behind homophobia now.
I will say this though, I did respect Danny a lot more for his reaction, because he seemed to understand the point that I was getting across, rather than Trent's reaction. So I will say this, Danny, you got some respect points there. I do want to clarify though, the comment wasn't directed towards you, because it's not your fault that the Roman Catholic gentleman teamed up with you to defend theology. That's his fault. But anyway, let's look at this. Colt Savage, $2. Did you like the memes I tweeted at you today? Yeah, that was pretty funny. Let me see if I can pull one up, actually, because those were actually pretty funny. And then I'll get into the other super chats. Dude, some of these memes with this template were pretty hilarious. I'll share some of those real quick.
You're just doing this? It's so cacky.
Yeah. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Boomer tech moment. This one got me pretty good earlier. What Cleave to Antiquity brought up a good point. What's your response? That got me pretty good, dude. Yeah, that was Colt that sent that in. That was pretty funny. What else did he send? Hold on. There you go. J-Dyer, we do not worship the same God as Muslims. Cleave to Antiquity, we do not worship the same God as Muslims. Trent Dougherty. Just him flipping us off. Dude, this is gonna be pretty wild. I mean, this was the original
total credibility killer.
This was the original kind of picture here. I mean, I was a little bit in shock. I did not expect him to crash out this hard. I expected him to give some pushback, but I ultimately thought it was something that they were gonna, like, I don't know, try to address, and then I could flesh it out a little more. But this blew that out of the water. I couldn't even elaborate on what was said, because I was like, all right, dude, let's just move on, because he already like crashed out pretty bad. I don't want to make it worse than it actually already was. But hold on, there were a couple other memes. Did I save those? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, those memes are pretty funny.
Well, but one thing they're pretty good.
Oh yeah, there was a ton of them. Oh, actually, I think they're in the comments of this here. New meme template. This is not a drill. Shout out to Other Paul for pushing the meme drive. You're a true American hero. Well, you're not even American, but you're an honorary American
hero, true Aussie hero.
Yeah, true Aussie hero. Thug life meme, obligatory there. What else? Papist. The pink elephant is not God. I have no idea why they keep falling for that. Sam Shimon fell for that. Catholic Christian fell for that. So many people have fallen for that line of reasoning. It's just absolutely absurd.
Well, I don't know how they dodge it, because you prep it saying if it has all those metaphysical qualities you assign as the bare minimum, how is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Danny's in the chat. He wants to talk to you. Would you be willing to pull him up or no?
Well, let me get through this. Maybe a little later. I don't want to do an after debate and do it all over again.
I know. It's like you already got mogged. Just take the L, little bro.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do an after debate. I kind of just want to
Funny
discuss.
too, though, because as you mentioned fruits, it's funny the fact that the natural theology, we all worship the same God crowd, are consistently cussing out, crashing out, freaking out, teaming up with atheists, implicitly supporting LGBT, because he really freaked out when you pushed back.
Yeah, this one I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, what about Paul Zeal? I don't know if you guys watched the debate. About a good 20 minutes of it, actually about 30 minutes of it, was the argument was this one verse right here. Paul Zeal, what about this? Is he worshiping the one true God? Is he worshiping the one true God? I don't know if you noticed this, but Trent literally sold himself out in his 3-minute monologue when he admitted that Paul was ignorant.
Yeah. It's like you already gave that qualification. I don't know how. What are we debating now,
dude? Because that was the example I brought up. I was like, oh yeah, but Superman, if Lois, because he gave this example in another debate, he said if Lois was looking at Clark Kent with the glasses on, and then saw him as Superman somewhere else, oh, it's Clark Kent, that's Superman. Are they talking about two different people? Well, I was like, well, if Clark Kent took the glasses off, put the super suit on, and she said, no, actually, I'm referring to Bizarro, you would know they're not talking about the same person. That's the exact same thing that Muslims do. They know that the Christians worship Jesus as God, yet they reject the one true God, who is Jesus Christ. So that would be like rejecting the actual Superman in front of you and saying, no, actually, I mean Bizarro, which was the example I brought up in that debate. And when it was brought to light that, I used that when in their first line of reasoning. Well, yeah, but then Christ revealed himself to Paul, and then what did he do? He submitted to him. He didn't reject him like the Muslims do. It's a nonsense argument. Let's see. Danny, $5 super chat. So what happens if I defend Protestant views, which I have before? Does that mean your theology is in trouble? No. The critique wasn't towards you, Danny. It was towards Trent for partnering with you on the same team to defend his theology. You're not supposed to do that. Read Psalms 1. Read Psalms 1. That's actually how I knew I was going to win the debate. The entire day before this debate, I prayed and I was reading the scripture. Psalms 1 literally says, if you sit in the seat of mockers, right, you walk in the way of sinners, so you partner with those that do evil, you're not going to prosper. If you don't do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to prosper. So I already had God on my side in this. But thank you for the super chat. Tishby. Danny's problem was that everyone had to accept his definitions regardless of how wrong they were in this particular Christian subject. Yeah, I think that was a bit of an issue. Like the word concept fallacy with a law. You saw that, Mario? At the end?
Because Christians, obviously Arabic Christians, as Orthodox, Antiochian Christians, they'll use the term Allah referring to the Trinity, which is totally fine. But when we're talking about Allah colloquially, in this sense, we're referring to the Muslim God. So it's just, come on, keep up.
Mm-hmm. Some people are asking in the chat, where is the debate posted? It's on JP Uncut's channel. So if you want to watch the full debate, which we'll actually watch here in just a moment, I'll watch it kind of sped up. We'll skip. And
honestly, it's not an appropriate debate to play if you have kids. Sadly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If you've got kids, don't watch it in front of your family. I had people at my church that were watching the debate, and they texted me. They're like, I saw that. That was very unfortunate. I'm like, yeah, maybe not something to talk about amongst the congregation, but interesting for sure. What was interesting though, or kind of, I already let them know I was going to use that line of reasoning because it is not an intellectual issue. It is a spiritual issue. And that is manifest in the debate partner that Trent chose. Brooklyn A, $5. Matt 4, 5, 10. Satan's goal: divert worship to himself. If a religion stems from this deception, it leads to Satan worship, even if followers reference God. Well, yeah, that's what the scriptures say. The gods of the nations are demons, right? This was something that Jay said over and over again. The gods of the nations are demons. It's not as though they said, oh, they're actually kind of close. There's goodness in them. There's actually a little quasi-pagan sacraments or whatever. That's not the case. The gods of the nations are demons, according to the Holy Scriptures.
Entirely uncontroversial. Yep.
All right, cool. I think we're caught up on super chats finally. All right, let's jump into the debate. I'm gonna pull it up and share this on my screen. I'll skip around a little bit and we'll give some commentary on it. So this was on JP Uncut's channel. Give me 1 second while I pull this up. Thanks for swinging by the way, Mario. This is fun.
I'm having a great time. I hope to do it again. I want to make more content with you. Maybe we could even do like a friendly discussion or debate about something, but I don't want to quit being friends. That warning's hitting me too hard.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you bisexual in the middle of the debate, Mario. That's
that means my girlfriend's looking at me. She's like, "That's news to me." She's like,
yeah.
Hey, it's news to me too.
I'm just kidding. Oh goodness, that'd be funny though. I just I don't know what would we even debate on, like sola scriptura or something.
Sure. I mean, it was so boring, dude. How many sola scriptura debates can we do?
All right, I got a new debate topic for you that nobody's ever done ever. All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. Is Archbishop Elpidophoros based or cringe? That would be a good debate topic.
Well, you know what he did that was kind of Sigma. You know, I credit where it's due. He had a Sigma moment, and I gotta give him credit for this Sigma moment. Is when he called Trump the new Constantine.
Yeah, the new Constantine.
Hard. That was so dope. I mean, Trump's been letting me down a little bit, low key, not to get political, but pretty funny. I thought that, you know, if I have to give the guy a W, I'll give him that. But
well, you know what's wild, dude? I don't want to get too deep in the weeds though. That whole like, do I want to discuss this on the live? I don't know. It's kind of controversial.
I feel like I know what you're gonna say.
Well, I don't know if you know what I'm going to say though, because it's like nobody talks about this. I don't even know if Jay's talked about this before, but you know how with the EP, what are you Rocore?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. So I can talk about the EP anyway. so with the EP, that ceremony that they do with the American like archbishops of Goark, that actually goes back to Athenagoras, who was one of the first CIA asset ecumenical patriarchs. And I don't know if you've seen that like famous
Freemason.
That famous, yeah, he was a Freemason. You know exactly where I was about to go with that.
Yeah, I don't want to get into this. I don't want to get into this, but if you want to have a private conversation, I'd be more than willing.
Yeah, no worries. All right, $5 Bible first. If we want to debate on your channel, will you host? I don't know who you are. Do you have a channel? Bible first? Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me know.
Who are you debating, me or him?
And who are you debating? Are you debating me? Or are you debating Mario? He's debating Michael Lofton.
What? Can I do my Lofton voice the whole debate?
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for the $5 super chat.
Debate, but I had to do it in my Lofton voice, and you had to do it in some impression voice. What do you have any good impressions?
I'd have to remember how to do it. I'd have to play the video again, but I did a good Michael Diamond impression. Oh yeah, he was like Saint Malachi prophesied that. How did it go? Something like that. There was a good video. I don't know if you saw. Vatican Catholic actually did a response video to one of my videos a while ago.
No, I haven't seen this. I very rarely watch their content.
Yeah, it was on the Saint Malachi prophecy, because he was like Saint Malachi prophesied that after Pope Francis, the Antichrist, took the whatever, it's like a big meteor would crash into the Vatican and it would be over. So I did a video and I was like, well, Pope Francis is dead now. There's no big meteor. So whoops. Whoops. So they did a response and they were like, certain YouTube liars have slandered us online. And he's like, okay. You could have at least tagged me, and then like clipped my video, like the opening part of my video. But interesting. All right, so let's check this out. So this is I'm gonna play this I'm gonna play this a little sped up, just because a lot of this is redundant. The first 30 minutes of this whole discussion is about the same exact verse. And we're going over and over again. So just to preface this, they were trying to make the argument that Paul's zeal for God indicates that he's worshiping the same God. And they're like, this is a gotcha for your position. Well, I'm saying, well, they're trying to interpret this as, oh, well, Paul's saying that even if you willfully reject Jesus Christ, you're worshiping God. My rebuttal to that was all of the other verses that Paul says, where if you're worshiping, if you reject Christ, you no longer have the Father. If you reject Christ, if you're a pagan, your sacrifices are sacrifices to demons, etc., etc. Read Romans 1, all of these other verses. But eventually, Trent actually gives up, because at the beginning of this, I was stating that, well, Paul was ignorant when he rejected Christ, but then when Christ revealed himself to him, what did he do? He accepted him and submitted to him. Question, $10 super chat, DE text. Question, since pagans worship demons, wouldn't that be different from Muslims, since no pagan would say they're worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? Sorry for wording, $10 character limit. I mean, I would say Muslims are pagans, but in this particular context, no. I mean, just because they say they're worshiping the same God doesn't mean they are. For instance, the pink elephant with the unicorn horn thing brings this out pretty clearly. They are not worshiping the same God. This is just an absurd proposition. You could say, well, what if the creator of the universe, who's omnipotent, is like a fat guy in a New York hotel room or something? Is that the same God? They would be forced to say yes. If your only qualification is it's the same referent, you're going to get to absurdity pretty quickly, no matter which way you try to slice this. But let's go ahead and check this out. So I press him on this, and I try to get him with the golden calf thing, which he actually refuses to answer. Do I have this on 1.5? Yeah, I do.
The demon in place of God. You're not worshiping the true God. You're worshiping the demon.
Are you all suggesting that you can't worship multiple things at once?
Well,
yeah, you can't serve two masters. I mean, you're either worshiping the one true God or you're worshiping demons. You can't worship both at the same time.
So your position is that you can't worship multiple things at once?
Not in the true sense, no. There's one true God, so you can't worship a false God and the one true God at the same time.
Now, Danny, let me be very clear.
The Israelites actually did that.
Well, let me respond to Daniel.
Well, you can say from a material sense, but in the actual sense, no, absolutely not. When they're worshiping the golden calf, for instance, would you say that they're worshiping the one true God at the golden calf? What did God say in response to them there?
He rebuked them because they shall be no other gods before me, which is in fact an affirmation that.
And notice he's not going to answer this question because he knows it's a defeater for his position.
They were putting up gods next to God and worshiping them at the same time. And God.
Well, would you say that there's actually more than one God, though, Trent? Would you say there's actually more than one God, though?
No.
Yeah, there's one true God, and there's demons.
That's right.
And so when they're worshiping a demon in the form of an idol, a golden calf, are they worshiping the? Sorry, go ahead.
It's just what's stupid about this too is if in order to give God worship, then you have to give God what he's due, right? What God deserves, what God is owed. You cannot do that and simultaneously worship a pagan deity or worship a cow or whatever. That by definition is cutting God, not giving God the proper honor. You're now giving honor to things that God does not honor.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here? And then
absolutely.
He starts ranting about, oh, well, the Israelites already did this. And then you press him on that. Okay, yeah, did they? And then he doesn't want to answer the question. All he has is cheap rhetoric and then appeal to emotion. He basically is just, you're mean because you deny that all these different religions have the same God. So you're a meanie head, and that's really all he has.
Dude, sometimes you have to be direct, though, especially when you're having conversations with guys like Trent. You have to be very direct and blunt and speak to them in a language that they'll understand. Now, notice I wasn't rude a single time in this debate. I brought out theological points, even the point that I made where I was discussing Danny to Trent, which the conversation was actually directed towards Trent. Even in that instance, I wasn't using crass language. I wasn't trying to be rude to him. I was just merely demonstrating this is a spiritual issue. But they're going to piety signal. That's all they have. They have piety signaling. Oh, God have mercy on you. God have mercy on you. And he's dropping F-bombs in the same exact sentence that he's saying, God have mercy on you.
F you, and God have mercy on you. How dare you? You're mean. F you.
Yeah.
What?
And notice he was literally blaspheming too. He was saying OMG the entire time, dude.
Really? Yeah, no, he did. I remember he said at one point, he's like talking about how he likes to make the arguments to get them to general theism. And then OMG, now they understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did the same thing. He did the same thing in the AP and J debate. Sorry, go ahead.
I said that's much worse than swearing even. I mean, honestly, his crash out's way less bad than blaspheming our Lord while claiming to follow him. So
absolutely. Muslims themselves say they don't worship the same God as Christians, and I minister in a Muslim country. Dude, I actually have a short not that long ago where we were doing live debates on JP's channel, and I had a Muslim come up, and he basically admitted after a very short conversation, he does not worship the same God as me. And the discussion was over. So, I mean, even the Muslims are being more honest about this than the Roman Catholics are. But let's keep watching. One true God in that instance.
In that exact instance? Let's admit, are you worshiping God? Let's say are you married?
Well, just answer the one question there. If they're worshiping the golden calf.
I'm not going to answer a gotcha question.
Well, because you know what defeats your position.
No, because I'm too good for that. Are you worshiping God right now?
You're too good to answer the question about worshiping the golden calf.
I'm too good to be tricked. I'm too good to be tricked.
To be tricked, but this is your own position.
When you're eating a salad, and you're really focused on that salad, are you also worshiping God at that moment?
When I'm in the act of worship, notice how jacked up his concept of worship is. You're worshiping God eating a salad. What does he think worship is?
Yeah. So worshiping God is just like really liking him or something. And so when you enjoy a nice salad, it's the same experience as worshiping God. Maybe in the Novus Ordo, I don't know, but
dude. One of the last live streams we did, we're watching a Novus Ordo watch compilation of clown masses, and one of them they were doing the Eucharist out of a salad bowl. So maybe that's what he's talking about.
Real. I also want to know what he was getting at when he said, "Are you married?" What the heck does that have to do with anything? Where are we going with that? I'm curious where he was going with that.
I have no idea. Maybe he was going to say like I worship my wife or something. I don't worship my wife at all. I mean, that's insane.
But this is also just a really silly point for him as a Catholic, because Catholics are going to champion the idea of dulia and latria, right? So if he believes in the latria-dulia distinction, which as do I, I'm Orthodox, then you should be able to understand that there's different degrees of worship. And when you say that Muslims adore the one true God, that's a theological statement. You're not saying Muslims venerate the one true God, which might be a little more palatable. Oh, they try to honor the one true God, but fail at it. Maybe you could say something like that. But the idea that they adore the one true God, you're saying that they worship God in the highest sense. Giving him what he is due is what adoration is. So kind of a crazy concept.
Absolutely. Here, one second. Let's go ahead and continue watching here. Either worshiping the one true God or I'm not.
Why
I'm either worshiping the one true God or I'm worshiping a demon. So, like for instance, in the example that I brought up that you refused to answer with the golden calf, they're not worshiping the one true God.
Let's reset. There's a reason why Trent brought up Acts 22. Here, you made an inference that if you don't understand God as triune, you're worshiping a different being. Acts 22 is a counterexample because Saul, who became Paul, did not understand God as triune. Yet Acts 22 affirms that he was worshiping God. Right? It's just a counterexample to your argument.
Well, that's your claim. He says, "I have zeal for God." You would have to hold that in isolation from all of the other statements that he makes that says that if you reject Christ as divine. That's exactly it. This is one verse that they keep coming back to for about 30 minutes of this discussion. And if you look at every other verse in which Paul discusses people who reject Jesus Christ's divinity, literally says they don't worship God. If you were to read Romans as well,
referenced in the other debates, is it just the same three?
It's the same thing over and over again. I mean, he mentioned, I think at the J debate, he brought up the unknown God, but he realized it doesn't work because they're ignorant. So I think he was looking for a way to break through the ignorance, willful kind of argument there. So he was using this as an example. Oh, well, he was actually persecuting the Christians, but he kind of sold the farm later when he admitted that he was ignorant when he was persecuting the Christians, and then later came to the knowledge of the truth when Jesus Christ revealed himself to him. Oh, did my computer freeze?
And then even with this Acts 22 section, he still says Paul was ignorant. So doesn't he do that in this debate? Doesn't he say Paul was that when Paul, am I remembering correctly?
Yeah. He does later on in his 3-minute dialogue. He states that Paul was ignorant and then he wasn't when Christ revealed himself to him.
So he ends up bearing himself again. I remembered it being bad, but it's really bad.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. You're not worshiping the same God. You're not worshiping God at all, actually.
Acts 22
in the Bible, actually, Danny, actually very specifically says that if you reject Christ, you don't have God as your father. You have
let's just focus on
devils.
Acts 22, 1 through 5. Does Acts 22, 1 through 5 affirm that Saul does in fact have zeal for the one true God?
Right.
And if you were to take it the way that you're taking it out of
I'm
context,
asking
in
you.
rejecting all of his other statements, no, that's not what it's implying.
I mean, it's just there's no implication. It's just a sentence. He was filled with zeal for God, and that's
Is
true,
that a
right?
statement? Is that a
And they don't take any of the arguments. They just keep pressing on this yes or no. This continues on for about another 10 minutes. So I'm going to skip forward to the 22-minute mark.
There is no implication. It's just a sentence he says. What?
Yeah, basically. After outright refusing to answer in any way, shape, or form, wasn't a yes or no question, and answer in any way, shape, or form the golden calf question. Literally dodging it, saying, I refuse to answer this. Now you have to answer this in a yes or no format. We're not accepting the way that you're answering this. You have to answer it in a yes or no format, which I don't know if you saw in the J debate. He says, I don't answer yes or no questions.
Something I've noticed when I debate people is all the people who don't answer yes or no questions, they sure as heck will demand one out of you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a double standard there. But let's continue to watch.
Zeal for the one true God, correct?
Is that the only argument you have, Trent? Because every other verse in which he talks about people who reject Jesus Christ's divinity, he says you're not worshiping the same. Notice this is still going on. I just skipped 10 minutes. God, you're actually worshiping a demon.
We can go through them one by one, bud. We can go through them one by one. But what's not going to happen with this guy is that you're going to push me off.
So do you just have
square
one
one.
verse, Trent?
So
Do you just have one verse to
I
back
have
your
one
position?
verse to start with, and I will go one by one by one. Every
So-
verse you want to go. But
so let me
what's not
ask
gonna
you a question.
happen is
Since
you're not going to
you're
push me off
saying,
square one. That's not going to happen.
Trent,
True or false?
let me ask you
was
a question.
Paul's zeal
No,
in
your
that
interpretation
verse
of that
zeal
verse
for
is
the true
incorrect.
God?
I've already proven that with Romans 1.
That's a yes or no question. Was Paul's zeal in that?
I'm not going to
verse
get
for the
trapped in
one true
words
God?
with your nonsense, Trent.
Okay.
No,
notice
your
everybody
interpretation
listening.
your interpretation of that verse is incorrect.
Everybody listening.
Look, this
notice
is
that he
the
cannot-
thing.
The simplest verse, and you
Dude,
can't even talk
You
about it.
literally refused to answer my question about the golden calf because you know it's a defeater for your position.
No, because you have a you are.
Are
not
you
distinguishing
able to
between-
answer it, or are you just trying to run from every question that I pose?
No. What I'm saying
Because I answered your question already. You just want to go back to it and beat the dead horse.
And then I'll answer your question. But we're going to start with mine.
I already answered your question, Trent. I already answered it with Romans 1, which actually
My question is a yes or no question. Was
which
Paul's
actually
zeal
lists
for
which
the one
actually
true God-
lists
It's
the
yes or no
ramifications for your type of theology,
question.
Trent.
Yes or no question. Yes or no.
Look,
Was
I'm
Paul's
saying
zeal for
your
the one true
interpretation
God?
of that verse is incorrect.
No, I didn't mention anything about interpretation. I'm just asking you, was Paul's zeal in that verse for the one true God?
Trent,
Yes or no?
he is not saying that if you
Yes or
reject
no?
God, if you reject Jesus Christ as God, that you're worshiping the one true God.
Cleave, why are
Your
you
conclusion is
you didn't
false.
answer my, Cleave, you didn't answer my yes or no question. You're not answering Trent.
Look, I've already answered that by showing that you're taking.
Sorry, did you answer yes or no? Did you answer yes
Look,
or no?
this is the thing. Let me speak. If you were to actually look through Romans 1, it actually lists the ramifications for holding your type of theology, Trent.
What does that have to do with his yes or no question?
Are you aware of that? Because it actually refutes your position.
Are you aware it's a yes or no question?
Yeah, I'm aware it's a yes or no question.
Sorry,
Why
what?
won't you answer it yes or no?
Because your question is based off of a false premise.
What is his
that your
question?
interpretation
Are
is
you
correct.
listening?
Oh, but yours isn't?
You're saying it does. Did he actually have true zeal for God? I'm saying that in his Jewish belief. Yeah, notice how they don't actually care about the answer. They're just trying to play word games the entire time. That's how you know you're debating somebody who's 100% bad faith. I doubt Trent actually believes this in any way, shape, or form. I just think he's defending it because he's bound to by ecumenical council.
Yeah, but also I don't even think that I don't even know if Vatican II is why he believes what he believes. I think he's just kind of an odd guy because he inquired into EO about 15 years ago. Perry Robinson was talking about this, and he wouldn't join the church because of women's ordination, because Orthodox don't ordain women. So he's always been kind of an odd bird. He's kind of wanted it his way or the highway. I think he thought Vatican II might be the closest way to fit in his ideology. But I mean, he goes way further than V2. V2 doesn't have this sort of dual covenant idea that Jews are auto-saved while rejecting the Messiah. So it's just, this guy's an outlier. But the thing is even though he is more ecumenist than Vatican II is, as long as he wants to keep debating this topic, we should keep doing it because he shows the absurdity of what this position leads to if consistent.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Overtly worship what you have explicitly rejected, but we know that that's false.
So all right. So
We know that's
in
false.
your previous.
The lowest.
Okay, well that's an
the
assertion.
stand-
Prove your point.
Well, my assertion is based on all extant semantic theories of reference and the de dicto de re distinction that has been around for over 2,000 years, and the realization that you can sometimes have false beliefs about something and still latch onto that thing. I mean, Lois
Sure,
Lane
it's
had-
false beliefs, but you can't reject
didn't-
who he. Well, let me answer this comment in here. Hey, I'm Eastern Orthodox. I know this dude. I think you're trying to say doesn't like Eastern Orthodox, but he's getting closer and closer. I've got plenty of Eastern Orthodox friends. We just disagree theologically. So I do debates. That's really all that is. One of my closest friends in real life is a Greek Orthodox guy. I live in a very Greek Orthodox town, and we debate theology and do jujitsu. So I mean, I love my Eastern Orthodox brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Honestly, I think this is
many Protestants. What's anti-Catholic about what I'm saying? All I'm saying is that this position, which is Roman Catholic and not Eastern Orthodox, I have contention with. Of course I would, but that doesn't mean that I'm anti-Catholic. Stop whining.
Right. Absolutely. You should be able to. This is the thing. I think we've all gotten super soft lately. You guys would never survive in an Xbox Live lobby back in the day playing Call of Duty. You guys would have totally melted your skulls off. We got to kind of man up a bit. We got to be able to take some jabs, be able to have debates with people and still remain friends with them afterwards. Like I debated Eric from Catholic Christian. He was a good sport. I've been on his channel maybe 5 times since that debate. But you know, we've got to be able to have these chats and still, you know, kind of be respectful afterwards.
Well,
I wouldn't even.
So many of these guys are just spiritually feminine. I mean, you look at Trent over here. Is this the Ellen DeGeneres show? I mean, what is going on? Of course, he can't take any sort of pushback. But I mean, if you're a guy, you probably have gotten into physical fights with your friends and remained cool. So I don't know what happened, where we went so soft, but it's pretty lame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, man. Maybe that's just the era that I grew up in. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the guys at my school would get into fights all the time, just shake hands afterwards. It wasn't a big deal. Like, that's just kind of how things were. I mean, that's how things are still today. I mean, I do jujitsu. We roll each other, you know, choke each other out, do whatever. And we're still friends afterwards. It's not like, oh, you hurt me, so I'm not going to be your friend anymore. I'm going to crash out on you or something. Absolutely insane. It is ontologically.
Why think that? Why do you think that? I think that's false. I think what you're saying is false. Try to say.
Oh, I just showed you with the Bizarro example, Trent.
No.
Let me give an example that would clarify. Look, there's a parable, I think, about the elephant and the blind men, right? So you get a bunch of blind men, you tell them all that you're going to be, touching an object, and you have to identify what it is. And they all touch various parts of the elephant. One touches the legs, they think that it's a tree what they're touching. The other one touches the tusk, and they think it's like a spear or something, right? When they give their descriptions about what it is, they're talking about the same thing, but they have radically wrong and mutually exclusive descriptions, right? So,
radically disagree.
Right, and that's what, if Christianity is true, that's what the Muslims have done, right? They've picked up on Christianity and Jewish talk about God, and then they come up.
Y'all say this. Don't you dare put me in a self-defense situation. One of the things I respect about Jay Dyer the most is that he writes for Sam Hyde. How based is that? That's all right. That's cool, dude. Jay, if you're watching this, unblock me on Twitter, man. I'm not that bad, I promise.
Can I share a brief anecdote about Sam Hyde?
Yeah, go ahead.
So about a year ago, one of my best friends, Dylan, and I went to a Sam Hyde show with a couple of our friends, and he's Eastern Orthodox as well. And while we were at the debate, there's this girl that he kept saying was really pretty and he wanted to talk to. And every coffee hour he would see her, but he would get nervous and not say anything. But we went to the Sam Hyde show after the debate. Jay he went to the show right after us. We didn't end up seeing him this time, but he was at the same place or whatever. At Sam Hyde's show, they met. And they ended up getting married and having a kid. So there's a whole person, shout out Mason Paisios, Dylan's kid, who wouldn't exist if not for Sam Hyde and Jay Dyer. So,
dude, straight up. You know, I've got a similar story with my wife. We were both working together. We had an office job at the time. That's how we met. But one of our first Valentine's Days together, the first gift I ever gave her was, you know, that Sam Hyde face where he's like upside down, it's all red and bloated.
Yeah.
So I got one of those like Beauty and the Beast glass jars and printed out a color picture of that ugly Sam Hyde face, and I plastered it on the inside of this glass like dome thing and gave it to her as a gift because it was the most absurd thing that I could think of, but that was our sense of humor. We would bond over like Sam Hyde videos and stuff. So
Sam Hyde is he's Cupid, bro. He's out here shooting everybody with love arrows. There's love is in the air.
That's true. If you fellows are looking for a lady, you need to bond over some Sam Hyde memes.
People always
how you
say,
gotta do
oh, if you're looking for a wife, go to church. True. But if you really want to find her and things are looking rough, go to a Sam Hyde show. There's a lot of beautiful women there that you might be able to rizz up. You never know. You never know.
What about Jay's local shows? He's been doing some stand-up stuff, some of that cringe core music. You think it's got the same vibe?
I went to one of them. He's really cool. Jay's a really sweet guy. I think it's crazy. It's crazy how people say he's so mean. It's like, dude, he's passionate. He's zealous. And like, he calls a spade, but is he mean? No, he's a sweet guy. He's really kind. He's been nothing but good to me and my friends. You know, some of my friends have been to his house even. And he's a really cool guy. So I got nothing but love for Jay. I'll always defend him. And, you know, whenever rarely he says something I disagree with, I just keep my mouth shut because it's the homie. You know, it's the homie. I'm not going to say anything. So he's really cool. And the Sam Hyde stuff, Sam Hyde, I think he's the last real comedian. I mean, you've got, you know, Bill Burr, and you've got these, you know, these different comedians, like, they're just not that funny. Sam Hyde, he is truly funny. He says whatever he wants to say. And he's also recently a Christian. He said that he believes in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So glory to God for that. And I'm hoping that he continues in that journey. You know, and I think Jay probably played a role in that. So glory to God.
Yeah, dude, I think the same thing. Because I don't know if you noticed, Charles came to the faith first, I think, then Nick, then Sam did recently. Sam had Nick on his show. They were both sitting on my couch or whatever, and he was like, "You ever think about?" He's like, "You ever think about God?" And Nick was like, "I don't think about that. I think about like cars. I think about like cars."
Yeah, but then you think about cars too hard. It makes you think, cars go fast. You know, else is fast. Life is like a vapor. Wow, maybe there's a deeper meaning. I don't know. You can look at anything. It's like the Wikipedia game where it's like, how many Wikipedia searches can you do till you hit a certain thing? It's like, yeah, it's like that with God. I mean, the rocks testify. You look outside, you see God everywhere.
Hold on, my wife actually brought the hideous Sam Hyde gift I gave her. This is the first gift. The first gift I ever gave my wife.
That's awesome. That's so sick. That's so sick.
It's hilarious. Thank you, baby.
Mm-hmm. Love you.
Love you too. All right, $5 super chat. Norm, the Israelites worship multiple gods at the same time. Why does Trent say this like the Israelites weren't punished for this in Scripture? Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you noticed in Romans 1, it literally says they don't worship the same God. Let me pull that back up real quick. This just jumped from the chapter to whatever. I'll pull it up later. Let's keep watching the debate.
Come up with their descriptions about the thing that Muslims and Christians.
That's actually a really good example, Danny. Because at the beginning, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about willful rejection versus ignorance. So if you're ignorant, you can be referring to the one true God, or you can ignorantly be referring to the one true God. When it's willfully, when you willfully reject something that has been revealed to you, you're no longer talking about the same thing.
Wait,
in the same example, can I provide an example?
My example. If you tell them it's an elephant, and they say no, it's a tree, they're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah, if they're ignorant,
willfully denying.
Oh, you know what? He actually brings up the elephant first, which is funny because this is kind of like a canned argument I use quite often. So he kind of walked right into that one.
No. They're willfully
if they're ignorant of it.
Okay, so you would say, I'm not blind.
So Trent, you would say that somebody who willfully rejects Jesus obstinately is still worshiping the same God as you.
Just like in the elephant case.
Sure. If they've come to latch onto God.
So what's the limit then? So you said in your previous debate, you said Zoroastrians worship the same God, right? You said Muslims worship the same God.
I said
Go ahead.
I said I liked when you press the threshold here. Like, what's the threshold? When are we going too far? Is there anywhere that's too far? And then Trent, he just basically goes, there is no threshold, you know? Like, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, you know, there's no limit. Anybody can worship the same God. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the absurdity of this position. There's no limits, man. There's no threshold. And you could just say it's arbitrary. And this was actually shown in Trent's previous debate when he said Zoroastrians worship the same God, Hindus worship the same God. He said in some sense atheists worship the same God, which makes no sense. And then he somehow drew the line at Mormons, and I think he said, no, they're too weird or something.
So
that's what he said.
You know what it really is? It's an argument from vibes. It's like, well, you know, I met a cool atheist. Yeah, they believe the same God. Oh, that Mormon guy cut me off in traffic. No, Mormons don't believe the same God. Well, that Muslim guy, he was pretty nice to me. Yeah, Muslims believe the same God.
Yeah.
Dude, shut
Vibe
up.
space theology.
It's all vibes with these people.
$5 super chat. Justice. If Trent is a Catholic, then I'm a crocodile. Hey, in his, go ahead.
I think he might not argue you. He might say, yeah, well, you know, crocodiles, they have feet, they walk around. You have feet, you walk around. You know, you're the same thing. You're a crocodile too. Oh gosh.
Yeah, we're all just crocodiles here, man. That's Vatican III. Everybody is a crocodile.
Kind of epic. My girlfriend would love that because she's a huge fan of gators. I know gators aren't crocodiles, but you know, to me, it's the same thing.
Close enough. They're all the same thing, man. It's all the same gator.
She's shaking her head while she's knitting over there. She doesn't like that.
All right. Dredge says $20 super chat. Cleave. I remember when you and I would chat a lot on Discord. It's crazy to see you become a leading figure in Protestant apologetics. Keep it up, man. Solely Deo Gloria. Yeah, thanks, man. I remember you from Discord. Those were the days back when I got banned on every single server I ever joined that was run by Roman Catholics or anybody that opposed my view. Yeah, I remember that. That was fun. I got banned on the Christianity Discord server for debating a Roman Catholic. I don't even remember what I disproved him on. But he brought up afterwards, he was raging out that he lost this debate. So he was posting stuff about, what was it? Fox's Book of Martyrs. And he was like, he said something like, he said something crazy, like you should kill Protestants, kill all Protestants or something. And he was raging out, dude. And I was like, okay. And this was a mod on that server. And I was like, okay, well, like, what do you think about this? And I sent him a snippet from Fox's Book of Martyrs where because I was reading that book at that time, where they burned a pregnant Protestant lady and the baby fell out of her stomach, and the Roman Catholic bailiff said you should burn with your heretic mother and throw the baby back into the fire. That's real, by the way. That's in Fox's Book of Martyrs. And he just said to that, he's like, based, do it again. So I got banned after that. He banned me. So yeah, I remember that Dredge. That was interesting.
How do you say based to a baby dying? Are you sick freak?
Dude, well, it's not like I said at the beginning, it's not an intellectual issue. This is a spiritual issue 100%. And this displays itself over and over and over again. Paisios, don't forget that Trent got fired for sexually harassing his students. Yes, he did. So remember my Romans 1 point. Vindicated. Literally vindicated. This is the natural result of this type of theology.
What's funny is maybe Danny is the guy selling himself short, teaming up with Trent. Because it sounds like Trent's more of a degenerate than this guy is. Because last I heard, Danny's in a monogamous relationship, married to a woman. Sounds like he's a better guy than Trent if he's not out here harassing people like that. Golly, maybe we had it backwards.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm just being polemical.
Wild.
I just am insulted.
All right, let's check this out. Okay, but if they're aware of Jesus and they reject him, right?
Mhm.
Let's say Zoroastrians. You said Zoroastrians worship the same God. You said it's possible in some sense. Muslims worship the same God. Where's the line? What's the line of delineation?
There isn't one. And standard examples show, standard textbook examples show.
So then everybody's worshiping the same God then.
No, that doesn't follow. So you keep the problem with, so I don't know if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson.
Well, then why don't you
did this interview.
You say, how Brooklyn $10, how's Danny know it's an elephant? Can he see what the blind man can't? Whether Christians and Muslims refer to the same God is precisely the point under debate. Baking in a conclusion isn't an argument. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you notice this, he actually walks right into, I don't even think we got to that point. He's about to walk right into my trap here. Geeky says, link to the original video. Look it up on JP Uncut's channel. The full debate stream is there. Thank you for the $10 super chat, by the way.
With this woman who kept saying,
what is your criterion?
So you're saying, and that's why I feel
well, Trent, what is your criterion to say that somebody's worshiping the same God or not?
The criterion in the case of Muslims, the criterion in the case of Muslims is
no,
that
just for any religion, not just Muslims, for any religion. What's the bare minimum criterion to be worshiping the same God? Or is it just subjective?
That's a false dilemma. You are a veritable banquet of logical fallacies, my friend.
So you won't answer the question because you know it defeats your position yet again, and everybody here can see it, right?
Let's to help with your question. Let's take a case of pagans, right? Pagans might
Well,
worship.
no, can you answer the question?
I am
What is your
answering the question, right?
No,
You don't like-
I'm not
I am answering the question.
to you.
I'm talking to you, Buster, right? I'm talking to you,
No,
right? I'm talking to you. So let me.
I'm talking to you, Buster. I don't know why that got me pretty good.
Logical fallacy when you ask him what the threshold is for believing in the true God. No, that's kind of what the contention is. We're debating who worships the true God. So you think having a discussion about the threshold would make a lot of sense. So crazy that he dodges that. I mean, when I was talking to Gideon Lazard, and I was asking him, why don't LDS worship the same God in your system? He says, oh, it's because, we believe that God is the uncaused cause. And he at least gives some sort of like metaphysical groundwork for why he holds to this position. Even though I still deny this, I still think he's wrong. It's way less arbitrary than Trent, which goes back to what we were saying earlier about Trent kind of being a one-man island with his position. He really is defending the religion of Trent. I'm not talking about the Council of Trent. I mean his own religion. He's his own pope over here.
Yeah, that's true. To be fair to the Roman Catholics, this guy does not hold typical Catholic theology. Most of them that defend Vatican II, I don't think would hold that in any way it's salvific. But if you were to like the false religions, Michael Lofton would maybe defend that position. If you were to look at the actual documents outside of this, like the Pope JP2 documents, if you were to look at he did this whole treatise on Lumen Gentium in which he conflates the statement with actual salvation in some sense. But I would say your average Roman Catholic isn't going to defend Vatican II from the standpoint of it being salvific or something. But maybe that would be a good debate topic sometime in the future to get into the weeds of it. Is there salvation in these false religions based off of the merits of these false religions?
I'd like to talk to one of the more conservative guys that holds the V2, somebody like Pine Sap or somebody like Wagner, who are more conservative and take the strictest possible view of V2. Because it would be interesting to get a debate between two Catholic Christians that hold the V2, but one's more radical than the other. Like, I would like to see Lofton versus Pine Sap on religious indifferentism. And I'd like to see which one actually holds closer to the spirit of Vatican II. So that'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see an intra-Catholic debate between a hyper-ecumenist Christian type and then a guy who's kind of a V2 minimalist. I don't know if these are real terms that I'm using, but
yeah, these are it's all subjective anyway. The whole system's subjective. It's all subjective. There is no line of delineation. Everything is everything. Don't you know this, man? Dude,
well,
I'm totally the universe, bro. Like
Vatican II is vague by design, that's the whole point. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be cool to watch them debate. Watch them fight amongst themselves for once.
Yeah.
For once. That's why I said for once. They fight amongst themselves all the time.
Right. What happened to Pine Sap? He's gone. Like, I haven't seen him on YouTube in a long time.
He isn't streaming as much, but he's still on Twitter. He's now Feels Guy.
Okay. Bush Concepts, $5. I'll say I haven't done much digging, but is it public knowledge which specific denomination you hold to? You keep doing God's work. So I'm actually an associate pastor at a non-denominational church currently, but I do hold to baptismal regeneration and real presence in the Eucharist. So a little different than most that you would speak to, but good question.
Baby baptism or no?
I am currently leaning that direction. Yes. My church does not practice it though. I have discussions with my senior pastor and elders and things like that on these types of things, but we'll see if we can't get some reforming in, you know what I mean? Let's take a look.
That's the question, and you're gonna
notice he's running from the question.
I'm answering your
question. He has no standard.
I'm answering your question.
He goes.
I'm answering your question. You won't allow me.
Which is why he's teamed up with an atheist because they have no
let me answer your question, right? And by the way, you did the same thing. You didn't answer yes or no when we demanded it. So I don't see why you have a problem with what I'm doing right now. So
actually, I did answer the question. I just didn't answer it in the way that you wanted.
It was like pulling teeth. Anyways, think about the pagans, people that worship Zeus. The reason why, when they're talking about Zeus, they're talking about a different entity than what Christians and Muslims and Jews are talking about, is because the sense of God there, the little g God, right, the concept doesn't imply anything like creator of all, have omni properties, right? It's like a humanoid being that has like, kind of more like Superman, right? So the idea is that when pagans are worshiping Zeus, they're saying, yeah, I'm not worshiping God in the sense that Christians and Muslims and Jews are worshiping, right? They're talking about little g God, okay? So that's the disanalogy between, or if you're looking for a case where they're worshiping a different God than people that say this phrase, I worship the one true God in Christianity.
Yeah, and the reality is there's a million ways that people come to God, but through Romans 1:20, it says that God's revealed himself in nature. So people, the reason why there is no direct answer to your question is because there's a million ways people can come to understand God. There is no finite set of options. But the most common way they come to latch onto God is through the heavens declare the glory of God, and they understand God as the creator of the world and everything. And so when I was a kid and I watched cowboy and Indian movies, and the big chief would sit with the head of the cowboys, and he would say something with a good guy, right? With a good guy, and he would say, "Hey, the Great Spirit wants us all to come together as his children." It wasn't like I was going, "Oh my God, who is this person?"
Well, real quick,
notice how
to
1 second,
God
JP.
who created nature, and therefore they were talking about the same God, because the phrase the only being who is the creator of the world is God. Do you know of another God? Are you aware of another God?
All right, so you're filibustering now. All right, let me speak. All right, so two things here. You're referring to natural theology, and all of your examples are referring to people who are ignorant, not those who willfully reject. So somebody out in nature, a person off on the island or whatever that doesn't have Jesus Christ revealed to them, right? That's who that would apply to, not somebody who willfully rejects. All right, so Danny, you actually answered Trent's question for him. So you said the creator of all, and what was it, omnipresent? Or what was the word that you used?
Things like omni properties.
Things like.
Okay, so creator of all, omni properties or something, right? So if those two, would you say that's like the bare minimum to say that you're worshiping the same God? Because that was the example you used, Danny.
Well, the point is that Muslims, Christians, and Jews think there's an entity that fits that description.
Okay, sure.
So they both refer to it.
If I belong to a faith and I say that I'm worshiping the uncreated creator of the universe, he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent, whatever the case may be. But my iteration of worship of him, I believe he is a pink elephant with a unicorn horn. Would I still be worshiping the same God?
In the same way that, yes, and let me elaborate. Yes, in the same way that the elephant example.
So notice the elephant example is used against him right there. So he just admitted, if you didn't catch that, everybody in the comments here. What am I at? 34? Let me go back just a little bit. He's omnipresent, he's omnipotent, whatever the case may be. But my iteration of worship of him, I believe he is a pink elephant with a unicorn horn. Would I still be worshiping the same God?
In the same way that
the pink elephant strikes again, dude. Undefeated. So his own elephant example works against him here. So you have to admit that if you hold to this theology, there's literally, they're not drawing a good enough line of delineation between who has the same God. The correct line of delineation is, well, guess what? If you reject the Trinity, if you reject Jesus Christ divinity, right, that would be a decent one to use. But if you were to argue the way that they're doing, it's all kind of subjective, whatever. It doesn't matter. My God is actually the same as a pink elephant with a unicorn horn. It just shows the absurdity of your position.
Did he say that when he was a kid and he was watching a TV show with a Native American, when they referred to the Great Spirit, he wasn't confused who that was? Is that what Trent said? Was he referring to, what was he referring to?
He might have. Yeah, I think that is what he said. Yeah.
Spirit. Is he claiming Native Americans worship the same God now? What are we doing?
Yeah. There's no line of delineation. It's just anything.
Just anything except what Trent arbitrarily doesn't like. That's really where we're at. This is an unserious position.
Yeah. It's almost kind of exhausting to watch.
And, this reminds me, part of why I, as somebody who's not super experienced debating, when I did that review stream that you were on, the Biblicea, I kind of picked him out because I knew that his position he was going to bind himself to way too much, and he was going to put himself in a position where it's really easy to debate against him. Well, to be honest, that's what Trent does. Trent makes it really easy to argue against him. You don't even really, you can argue against him and only cite 3 verses and he's done.
Yeah. Hold on. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Life before death. God bless Cleave. Great job on this debate. Was the debate strategy for this to be mostly 2 versus 1? JP didn't seem to have much chance to cook. Good question. Yes, because when JP offered the debate to me, we spoke on the phone earlier, and I said, dude, I'm cool to team up on this, but just kind of let me cook. Like, the only time I want you to jump in, and he was like, yeah, we'll do it. Let's do it. Whatever. Let's ride. I'll let you cook. Let's do whatever. He said, I'll be your Robin. You be Batman. I'm like, perfect. Let's do it. I was like, if for whatever reason they're starting to talk over me, I want you to jump in with your topic. That way it breaks up just this endless yap. Because I knew that's what Trent did in his debate with Jay. Every time Jay would put a point across, he would just he would wait for him to talk, and then and the mod didn't do anything about it. So I was like, JP, since there is no mod, just let me bring forth the arguments. You just kind of jump in.
Is that where they did that debate? Was it Modern Day Debate?
No, that was on Cameron Bertuzzi's channel, Capturing Christianity.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot. Because I was gonna just unrelated tangent, but the modern day debate moderation is hideous. It's so bad.
Yeah.
But that's not relevant.
Dude, does Andrew Wilson, does he still do debates on the Crucible other than like his own thing? He used to host them. Does he still do that?
I don't know. I mean, he hosted the debate I did. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember that debate back in the day? That one was bad. But
who'd you debate? Redeem Zoomer?
No, I debated a atheist black lesbian lady. And she actually, the entire stream, I think it's hard to find now, it might be paywalled or something. But she backs me in a corner where basically I have to say on stream that it's okay to kill gay people. Sorry, I don't even know if I should say that, but she was trying to back me in that corner. And I was just kind of like, I don't know what to say. And I panicked and I left the debate in the middle of the Crucible debate.
Oh, no.
It was a really bad look. It was about 2 years ago now. But I use it to my advantage now because I've gotten a lot better at debating. And so now I kind of tell people, I'm like, guys, you guys have seen my debate. I did so bad. Debate me now. You know, like kind of bait them in. Like, yeah, I'll just rage quit, bro. Trust. But I had my own moment, but it wasn't quite as flamboyant as this gentleman. What a flamboyant crash out he had. Wow.
Creasy's comment's pretty funny. You didn't know Jesus was a Palestinian Jew, Jay? Did you? Did you? Did you? Dude, that was rough. I cringed when he did that in the J debates. Just absolutely obnoxious. I gotta say though, I did kind of dig the neon light setup he had going behind him. That was a cool like aesthetic, at least.
Very Miami Vice, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty dope. Pretty dope. I got these little cheapo $10 LED strips.
Right now, all I've got, as I'm at my girlfriend's house, I've just got the blank wall behind me. So it's not as exciting, but maybe I'll do a cooler background at some point. I'm thinking about it. What should I do for my background? What did you think of those two paintings behind me during that debate? Was that
I don't remember.
You don't remember? No,
dude. All right. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what you got to do. You got to get one of those. So have you seen Timothy Gordon's channel, Rules for Retrogrades?
Yeah, he's got like the Jesus Saves cross neon.
Well, he's got the big light up circle behind him with his logo. You got to do your Twitter Mario on a light up thing. That would be dope, I think.
But I could do that for relatively cheap.
Yeah, I don't think it would be expensive at all. I think you could do that for like $50 or something, maybe 100. Just get a couple super chats, save them up, and then do that. That's what I do. I save my super chats usually to like spend on stuff for the channel. Like I want to get like when I film during the day, I have light coming through. There's a window right here. So I have light like blast through. I want to get like soundproof blankets for the windows to cover everything up in this room. So it's just dark. And then I have a nice light here, but I have to move it so it's like isolating me in my background, and then do like a lighting system in the back. That's what I want to do.
Ominous. What if I put on my hoodie and I make it dark in there and I just have like one light shining on my face and I just kind of brutishly, I don't know. Is that aura? Is that aura, chat? What do you guys think? Is that aura or no?
I don't know. There's that guy Cannon and Creed. I think he has a good lighting system where it's super dark, but it's just like lit right here. Who else does that? Iron Inquisitor does that in his videos. His lighting system's dope. JP Uncut. I did make two arguments in the debate. The Jewish argument. Oh, that's right. The truck is God argument. Yeah, I thought that was good. The chat was actually blowing up when you made that argument. I don't know if you realized that. They were like, he's bringing it back to like elementary terms for these guys so they'll understand their level of miscommunication. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Hold on. Okay. All right, let's dive back into this.
Yes, and let me elaborate. Yes, in the same way that the elephant example, they think it's a tree. They're still referring to the thing as an elephant, even though it's nothing like a tree.
See, but this is the ridiculousness of this system, though.
Wait,
so to say that you're worshiping the same God. Well, guess what? We have an example of this within the scripture.
You won't talk about anything.
Real quick. Let me say
anything
we have an example of this, the golden calf.
Yeah, let me explain.
Yeah, we have an example of this, the golden calf. This is why he wouldn't answer it earlier, because if they're willing to say that a pink elephant with a unicorn horn is the same God that they have, then what about the golden calf? Was God just kind of, he was just a little too hard on them in the Old Testament? Is that the case? No, it's absolutely ridiculous. Trent, in his debate with Jay, was freaking out when Jay pointed out to him that the Old Testament Jews actually worship the Trinity in a type, which is insane. Trent looks so hilarious. That's a good still. I should have used that in the thumbnail. That's good.
Real quick. Let me.
So you just refuted your whole position.
All right. So real quick. So Danny mentioned an elephant.
There you
I can
go.
Real quickly, chat GPT an image real quick. So you know what?
That's right. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I need to give him some respect for this argument, because this was actually a really good point that JP brought up here. It kind of breaks down the distinction here. If you know these two things, you're not ignorant, as in the example that Danny and Trent kept doing. Notice all the Roman Catholic arguments: ignorance, 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 ignorance. Oh, what if they don't know and they're confused about this person? Kevin from Since 33 AD brought a similar argument after our debate on Vatican II. I actually forgot I debated him too on this, but he brought a similar argument, and he said, there's a person, one person thinks it's a girl, one person thinks it's a boy. So are they thinking about a different person or whatever? No, they're talking about the same person. They're just mistaken about who they are. I'm like, that's a ridiculous argument, because if they're right in front of you, one person says, no, that's actually not the person I'm thinking of, then it's obvious it's not the same person, which is the example with the Muslims, where they willfully reject Christ.
Why is there that semi there, though? That's funny.
Real quick. Check this out.
To be fair, neither of these things are God. Just to be clear to the audience, no.
No, yes. But let's go with Danny's example. Suppose that these particular individuals think that this elephant is God, but the actual God is the truck, and they're all touching it, and they all have different perceptions of this elephant. Regardless of what perceptions you might have of this elephant is not this truck, and this truck is not this elephant. So if a Muslim is touching this elephant, and I show them the revelation of this truck, and I tell them, hey, Mr. Muslim's touching this elephant, the true God is this truck, not this elephant, doesn't matter how much they touch it, because the true God is the truck, not the elephant. So I would say that, hold on, let me finish. So I would say that, now somebody said, JP source is ChatGPT. Relax, fellas. I'm just using a picture from the thing. Relax. So all I'm saying is that Danny's example is contingent on that particular entity being the one true God that these particular Muslims worship, saying that it's the same one. But I'm saying the truck is the one true God that I worship, and Muslims not. So once I make them aware of the truck that I worship, that is different from the elephant. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of the elephant example when it was originally brought up in the 40s, and why Danny.
Fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of the argument, and notice he doesn't actually elaborate on how it's a misunderstanding. He just asserts it.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say, like, appeal to logic fallacy.
Yeah.
Whenever he calls out a fallacy, it's fallacious. His calling out. He was like earlier, he's like, you're a fallacy machine. Okay, how? How so? Can you point to how? What fallacy am I doing? Watch him get real quiet. Maybe he'll crash out again. Maybe he'll cuss you out and flip you off. Maybe that's the answer.
When did that pop up? That was 45 minutes, right? Because I don't want to play that on here and get the stream taken down. I'll substitute it. I'll substitute it with a bleeped out crash out, because
we'll know when it's coming up. We'll know when it's coming up, because right before you comment on the bisexual atheist thing, and then it's right after that.
Also, guys, make sure you like the stream. We got almost 200 people watching this and 141 likes. Let's pump up those likes there. And if you guys want to ask us questions, send in a super chat. We'll stop and answer those as well.
I also, Cleave, I only watched the first hour of the debate, so I didn't see the super chat section. Does anything interesting happen there? Or?
Nah, there was like, I don't know, eight super chats that came in, and I think 2 of them were questions, but they were just kind of like already hashed out in the debate itself. So.
Oh.
Brought it up. The point of the elephant example was to show that it is a non sequitur to go from 2 individuals are giving radically different descriptions of an entity to the inference that they are not in contact with the same entity. That is the reason why he brought it in there, to show that it is a counterexample to a general inference pattern, pattern that was required for his argument to work. Now, let me give you just 2 examples, okay?
No, before you give those 2 examples, let me address that. And then
I'm going to come back to the 2 examples, though.
Absolutely. I've been very charitable and fair.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm keeping track of every second here, guys.
That's all right. Give JP an opportunity to talk. He's barely talked during this whole thing.
Okay,
so.
Thank you. And I understand what Danny was trying to say. It's a very sincere argument, right? But from the Bible, we see a truck and we see an elephant, and that's what we're basing it on. In the Bible, we see an example of the true God, which is a truck. God forgive me for the blasphemous statements. God knows that's not what I mean, but Danny brought up the elephant. And we see the false God that is the elephant. So because we see in scriptures examples of one worshiping the true God and one not worshiping the true God, and I think Zeus was mentioned in all of these things in lowercase g, the Bible actually never says that is the true God once you are no longer ignorant of what you are serving. So once you no longer are ignorant, you are now aware of the true God. And last but not least, you keep mentioning Jews, and you keep mentioning that Jews have a knowledge of God and a zeal for God. I already told you that Jews are a different example from Muslims because God actually revealed himself to Jews. So they have a knowledge of godliness, but deny the power thereof. So therefore, it wouldn't be the case with Muslims where Yahweh never revealed himself. It was actually the devil who revealed himself to Muhammad in that case. So that's where I would go. Go ahead. Give me your 2 examples. Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm going to reiterate that you all you guys are confusing the bare concept of worship as such with the enriched concept of perfect, whole, and flawless worship. Nobody's saying that Muslims perfectly, fully worship the one true God. I didn't say it. Do you believe that, Danny? Do you believe that Muslims were perfectly holy and in the fullness? Right.
I never said that.
Yeah, and that's not what Vatican says.
But all of the arguments depend on the inference pattern. If S is not worshiping X perfectly, S is not worshiping X. And that inference pattern has been shown to be false again and again and again. Now, let's talk about the denial thing. You talked about the difference between the Jews and the Muslims. That's why I specifically brought up Paul, because Paul most certainly was denying that Jesus was God, even though he was full of zeal for God. He was worshiping God in the ignorance that Jesus was, in fact, a divine member of the triune Godhead. Paul absolutely was denying that.
Was Paul a Jew?
Well,
Paul was a Jew.
Trent, let Trent finish his line of reasoning. Go
so that's why I didn't just coming back to the Jews. I'm coming back to the Jew, a specific Jew who is a counterexample to the inference pattern. But let me tell you 2 stories about real people. Okay,
stories. We only have 20 minutes left.
You got plenty of time.
Go ahead, just keep it short, Trent.
You tell me how much time I can take, and I'll start my clock.
No, go ahead, Trent. Just try to.
No.
So notice this. He brings up the 3 minutes thing. So I give him 3 minutes, and then he absolutely cooks himself. Notice he concedes the entire point and admits that Paul was ignorant. That was my entire point, which took 20 minutes for me to wring out of him, and then he wrings it out of himself at the end. It's insane, dude. Absolutely insane.
I want to know, do I have 3 minutes? Can I talk uninterrupted for 3 minutes?
Sure, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I am a former Christian apologist. Maybe I'm still a Christian apologist. I don't know. I don't like that term anymore because I don't like what shows up when you search for that on the internet. But I was a big advocate of the 2-step approach, okay, where you would give arguments for the existence of God to get somebody to theism, and then you would give arguments for the deity of Christ to get them across the border to full-fledged Christianity, okay? That was what I was taught personally by Norman Geisler, who was my main first mentor. It's what Bill Craig has always done, J.P. Moreland.
Go ahead.
I like that he calls himself a former Christian apologist. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Sorry.
That's tough. I mean, I genuinely hope he continues to debate on these topics because it just continues to bring forth that Vatican II is completely false and this fake idea that we all worship the same God, Muslim, Hindus, all this other stuff. It just drives us right into the dirt. That was honestly before every debate, I pray for long periods of time. I'll pray. And I make sure that, I'm getting things right with God, because if I don't have God on my side, it's worthless. You know what I mean? I'm just doing it by myself. So I'm praying and I'm like, God, I need this to be an absolute blowout. So this false teaching is just ground into the mud. And I think that really was accomplished in this debate, to be honest. Let's keep going.
Even Gary Habermas, all the people that taught me at Liberty University were all 2-stage apologists. It was like, okay, first we hit you with the theistic arguments to show that there is a God, and then we hit you with the arguments for the resurrection of Jesus, so that Jesus is the full and complete revelation of that God. Okay, now there are a lot of people who, in the process of that, will say, okay, well, like Tony Kennedy at one point, like, okay, all right, fine, you've convinced me God exists, but I'm just not. This Trinity stuff is contradiction. It's too complex. And the idea that Jesus could be both God and man, that's a contradiction. That just can't happen. But you got me on God. You absolutely got me. And then you work on him some more. You really feed him the historical facts argument. And then they're like, okay, maybe, okay, it's coherent. Okay, fine. The incarnation, the Trinity, they're coherent, but I still don't think it's true. And then you're like, and you just keep, read this. And then, oh my God, it's actually true. And they come to believe Jesus. Okay, that person comes to believe that Jesus is the incarnation of the very God that they believed in from the theistic apologetics, even in the interim phase where they explicitly rejected the Trinity, rejected the incarnation, rejected the divinity of Christ. And this proves 1,000 times over that it is not the case that denying that Jesus is God, denying that God is triune, explicitly rejecting it makes you not a believer in the one true God. That is a proof 100 times over, 1,000 times over, maybe 10,000 times over for the individuals who actually did that. Okay, so I got 31 seconds left. I had students at Baylor University where I taught for a long time, and I taught honors freshmen, and they were intellectually very intelligent students, but so many of them believe it or not, believe that God was a physical being. They literally believed that God was a physical being, like the Godhead, not incarnate in Jesus. They had beliefs that absolutely contradicted the true nature of God, but they believed in the one true God. They absolutely did. And I got three.
So he's saying, basically, even if you willfully reject Jesus, even if you willfully reject who God is ontologically, you could still be worshiping the same God. I don't know, man. That's deplorable theology to me. That's ridiculous. Then at that point, who is it? All right. Hey, we reached our goal. Thank you so much. Goal. Let's go, boys. Silas says, silly how many Roman Catholics on X thought your point on Romans 1 was an ad hom. Even a Catholic philosopher responded to me somehow, misused that fallacy. Bothers me to no end. Abusing fallacies. Yeah. I think that's kind of the low tier tactic for kind of like, I don't want to be rude, but guys that really can't make arguments just shout fallacy over and over and over again. It's really, really annoying. It used to be straw man over and over again back in the day. Oh, you're straw manning me. No, dude, I'm just breaking down your bad argument. You know, that used to be the thing. You're straw manning. Now it's tu quoque. That's the new one everybody uses. Tu quoque. That's a tu quoque, bro. Javier Perdomo brought that up in the interview with Gavin Ortlund. That Joe Heschmeyer uses that a lot, refusing to acknowledge the canon issue that Rome actually has in and of itself in some of our arguments against him. Oh, that's just a tu quoque, bro. Tu quoque. And then guess what? In Joe's response to the Gavin video, since he didn't actually watch it all the way through, he actually uses the same term again. He's like, oh, actually, you're just using a tu quoque. So he proved our point. He's like, yeah, he doesn't actually watch it. He just shouts fallacy over and over again. Which, Joe, if you ever want to debate, call into the stream. We can debate anytime, man. Get yourself some curtains. Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. All right, let's finish this up here.
Seconds to spare. I'll yield the balance of my time.
There you go. Do you mind if I have a couple of minutes to respond to that? Same amount of time is fine. Yeah. You cool with that, Danny?
Okay. It's hilarious, man.
Okay. Thank you again for coming and doing this debate with us. I really appreciate it. So just a warning, the crash out's about to pop up. So I'm going to try to pause it before he starts dropping F-bombs, S-bombs, blaspheming and all that. But I'll play the censored version just so you can see what happens. But it's nuts. It's been a good conversation so far. So I'll respond to basically what you just said about the about Paul's statement about his zeal for God. So in the time that you took to explain that, you actually, I don't know if you noticed that you said this, but in his ignorance of Jesus Christ's divinity, he was worshiping the true God. So that was actually something that you said in your response there. At the beginning of this debate, we conceded that if someone is ignorant of the one true God, right, they can in some sense be worshiping the true God. The same way that maybe an atheist who is like, God, show me a sign or something, can actually be calling out to God, even if prior to that they are willfully rejecting the Trinity or whatever. They're in that sense, they're softening their heart and saying, okay, maybe God is real. I'm going to call out to him in that sense. But in your example, you were discussing Paul being ignorant. Well, what happened shortly after that? He's no longer ignorant. Christ reveals himself to him. Similarly with the Superman argument, with Lois not understanding who, is this actually Superman or is this Clark Kent or whatever, that relies on her ignorance. But if he were to actually reveal himself to her, hey, this is me, this is Superman, I'm taking the glasses off, I'm putting the super suit on, this is me, I'm actually Superman, she was going to say, well, actually, no, the Superman I'm thinking of is actually that guy over there, and she points to Bizarro, we would know that they're not talking about the same individual. And I would also say that when I bring that up, so every other example within the scripture, so you bring up the one example with Paul, every other example of people who willfully reject God, it says that they're actually worshiping demons. And then the Romans 1 example that I brought that up very specifically because it explicitly states the exact opposite of what you're saying Paul states. So I'm going to read a little bit of a broader passage from Romans 1, and then I'll end my time here. So Romans 1:20, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. So people are without excuse. They're without excuse for acknowledging that there is a creator because he's evident in nature. Okay, but, right, continuing on, for although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. But their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. So referring to people who willfully reject God. So here are the actual ramifications for this type of theology if we continue on into the verses here. This is the ramifications, so pay attention to this, very important. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images to look like a mortal human being in birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore, God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another. So where does this type of willful rejection of the one true God, that you can only worship God in one specific, like if you're not worshiping the true God, you're worshiping a demon. So what happens when you worship these demons? Well, guess what? God gives you over to sexual impurity. And I think we can actually see the fruits of this type of theology on display here today, since you have teamed up with a bisexual atheist to defend your theology. All right. Good. Perfect pause. pro pause there. All right, let me pull up the censored version of the crash out, and we'll wrap up here. Here we go. Over to sexual impurity, and I think we can actually see the fruits of this type of theology on display here today, since you have teamed up with a bisexual atheist to defend your theology.
That's a piece of shit. That's a piece of shit move, you piece of shit. You.
I'm just saying.
Disgusting. I cannot believe that I'm sitting here and I am seeing somebody who claims to be a Christian treat another human being with such absolute disrespect. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. Danny,
well, you're coming here to defend theology with an atheist
unchristian
that has his entire and now he's crashing out.
God have mercy on your soul.
Well,
God have mercy.
So what happens when you worship so a couple of things there. We said this at the beginning. For those of you that are just joining, though, notice what Danny literally named himself in the middle of the debate. He changed it. It was originally teenage boy. That was his name or something like that. Some other like degen thing. It was like teenage boy, and then he changed it to bisexual atheist, I think 10 minutes into the debate or something. So he was trying to troll a little bit, but literally just saying like what the name is. How is that an ad hominem? He changed his name to it. But this was an overall, again, a theological point pointed towards Trent, not towards Danny. This was pointed towards Trent. You teamed up with a bisexual atheist. This is the fruit of your radical ecumenist theology. If all gods are just kind of the same, if in some sense atheists worship the same God, you have no problem teaming up with a bisexual atheist to defend your theology. I think that was evident here, and that really crushed them in this debate here. This was basically the end of it. Everything after this point was just rehashing some of the same topics. If you want to watch the full live stream, go watch it on JP Uncut's channel and subscribe to him as well. I'm sure he's going to have more debates and stuff like that pop up here soon. I would like to do more debates on maybe bigger channels or something, but thank you, JP, for having me on. That was really cool. It was fun. What do you think? Any kind of closing statements here, Mario?
Well, I really think this is a really cut and dry thing. Our Lord says that no one can come to the Father except through him. Christ is he's the one mediator between God and man. And how does he mediate? Well, it's because he's divine and because he's human. He can mediate and perfect human nature through his sacrifice on the cross. And without him, we are nothing. So you can't be saved without Christ. There is no Christianity without Christ. There is no salvation without Christ. Listen to our Lord. It's that simple. It's pretty cut and dry. So, Trent, I commend his effort, but you're a heretic and you're a Christ denier. So quit doing that. Believing in Christ is a lot better than not doing that. So atheists don't worship the same God as me. As a matter of fact, ask them. They don't worship any God. And if you look at Scripture is really clear. Whoring after other gods is wicked. It's evil. It's degenerate, and it's not Christian. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is pretty cut and dry. But God bless everybody. I'm glad to be here, and I'd like to do more content with you, Cleave, at some point. I think that'd be really fun. I think we could do a debate and stay friends. I really think we could. So if you ever want to debate Sola Scriptura or some other thing, we can do that. And if you want to just have a chill stream, I'm always down to hang. I think you're friends with the other Paul too. He's a good buddy of mine. So
yeah,
if you ever do streams with him, I'm down. So yeah, God bless.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely, man. All right. Well, hey, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to subscribe to Christian Mario's channel, feel free to do that. The link is in the description. So go ahead and give him a subscription. He's going to be streaming a lot more lately. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Check out his previous parody videos. Those are really good. Are you going to do one on Vatican Catholic? You did like a teaser trailer or something.
I plan on doing one on him, and I kind of want to do an animation of this particular debate. I think it'd be fun to do an animation. I've been kind of getting a little more into that. Not really, but I'm flirting with the idea of getting more into animation. So yeah, that could be
ask Jim Bob for some pointers, man.
Yeah, he's the best. He's really good. So I'd love to talk to him.
Dude, have you seen, before we close out here, have you seen his new show, Ortho Thugs?
No, I haven't gotten around to seeing it. I'm a member at his channel. I watch his streams all the time, but I haven't gotten around to watching that. I hear it's great.
Do you have to leave, or can I play that real quick? 1 second, like
Yeah,
it's like a
real
1
quick.
minute clip.
Real quick, yeah.
Let me see if I can. I want to give them a quick shout out because, all right, so this is one thing I'll say about Orthodox guys. You guys got like the best comedy dudes. That like Jay Dyer's hilarious, Jim Bob's hilarious. Who else? Even Ubi, if you talk to him, he's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy.
And then yourself too. So there's a lot of really funny Orthodox dudes. Let me pull this up real quick though. All right, so this was funny. He did a good Tucker Carlson bit here. I'll play this. It's kind of like Tim and Eric type humor, but he's doing a Tucker Carlson impression. It's 2 minutes, and then we'll close out here.
Fruits of their culture, but you don't get them as part of your culture.
It's called the free market, Tucker. They get the fruits of our culture as well. I don't know if you know this, but I send over 3,000 buckets of Foreveronian cheese to Mexico every year.
That's amazing. Did you say cheesed?
It's cheesed. It's cheesed. Everyone knows cheesed. Everyone eats it. You have a macaroni and cheese. Oh, you're going to have a grilled cheese. Just saying cheese.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Landwell, but why is it spelled differently then?
I don't know what you're saying. It's just cheesed. Everybody enjoys a nice hunk of cheesed burgers. I'm just saying cheesed.
I don't actually find it weird, but the audience might. And that's the thing about being on TV, is that you're constantly having to justify your position. Is that exhausting for you, Mr. Landwell? It's like everything looks exhausting to you, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Sorry
to insult you, but that's the truth.
That laugh was perfect.
Do you believe in the truth, Mr. Landwell? You're not one of those like.
Oh, dude.
You're not one of those like progressive people that 1 + 1 is.
Why, when you laugh, do I feel as though the fabric of reality is tearing?
Well, I mean, I can't disprove that that's happening. I wouldn't say that it is, but it could be happening. You do believe in absolute truth, don't you? You're not one of those. You're clearly right wing, but you're not one of those people who are like one of these progressivists. Like 1 + 1 = pineapple. It's like, I hope you're not one of those people. What do we? I can't do it anymore. I'm losing my.
You're gonna lose.
Dude, I thought that's so funny. It's like actually getting freaked out at the end by the laugh. Oh, bro.
I wonder if the log cabin was intentional too, because if you ever heard of log cabin Republicans, that's kind of funny. And the bow tie, that's real retro Tucker. I remember, it wasn't so long ago that Tucker was a neocon supporting endless wars, and now he's kind of based. I don't know what happened there, but he's more of a populist now. So,
yeah, I don't know, man. But that's so funny, dude. The laugh is so unsettling. They do yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it as well.
No, that's a great Tucker impression, dude. Yeah, exactly. One of the best Tucker impressions I've seen. Their channel's called Ortho Thugs. They just started, but it's gonna be big if they keep doing it. Like, it's really, really, really funny. Anyway, so yeah, check them out. Subscribe to them if you haven't. Subscribe to Christian Mario. Check out his channel. It's in the description. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. God bless.